It was that profound an experience. So
I think I got like, this a couple of months ago, and I just haven't finished it off, and it's just really, really good. And I don't drink a whole lot, so like if I'm gonna get something, I'm gonna get something quality and good.
That's my biggest problem is when I buy something, it takes me forever to finish it.
yeah,
So
I don't have that problem. My 12-year Dewars that I got from my neighbor for Christmas, that I went through that in a week. Like I've got this small batch bourbon over here that probably won't last through the night. Um, it's I don't have to drink, but when I start drinking, I just drink.
It's just,
mm.
It, so. Um, but that's a me problem. I'm working on that. Me and Giannis, we got that shit figured out actually. Um, so that's an ongoing narrative for those of you who really watch Rantcast, even if you don't care about sports ball. And Anachronistic Vampirus, the name I pronounce differently every single time. Twitch didn't tell me about Rantcast. Sag, don't worry, you're here now. That's all that mattered. We just got started. SJ Arcade popping in saying, "Let's go." Dropping a tier 1 sub for 9 years of support. Thank you so much for that, my friend. And speaking of SJ, let's go ahead and kick this off. I am, of course, the magical Mr. Mephisto, the most dangerous man in Age of Sigmar, your loquacious Lich King, leading you through the valley of all the adjacent topics of Warhammer. Tonight, though, we're actually going to talk about Warhammer. We're going to be doing the Great
sure.
Enhancing for Sylvaneth this evening. I am joined by two aficionados, two indoctrinates of the cult of the Gam Queen. I've got Aaron here to my
Yeah,
right, and Sajil. How's it going? How's it going tonight, friends?
Going pretty good.
going all right. Happy to be here.
Happy to be here. Good, good, good. Um,
Welcome, Kurnoth and Alarielle, into your hearts.
Yes.
have you heard the message of the Everthick?
The Everthighs.
Yeah,
The
the
Everth.
Everthighs. Uh,
Would you like to die by snoo snoo?
oh, Death by
This is the army for you.
This is the RE for you. Well, I mean, let's jump right in here. Let's jump right in here. I'm gonna start with you, Sajil. Why Sylvaneth? And then same question. We'll move to you, Aaron.
Why Sylvaneth?
You're like, as long as I've known you, you've been like a
Yep.
hardcore stand for Sylvaneth, and
Yeah.
time
No,
is meaningless. I think it's been years. I don't.
sure. It might be years. It might have been a week ago.
Yeah, yeah,
I feel like it's been like 3 days, but
That is a
also,
flat circle.
yeah.
yeah.
But no, it's the aesthetic for me. Like the aesthetic of war trees. Um, Lord of the Rings, the Ents marching to war. That nailed me on like the Dryad thing and Ents, and from there it's like, oh, I can just play an entire army of that. Yeah, I'm in.
That's awesome. That's
That's
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, there's we'll go ahead, Aaron. Same question. Why Sylvaneth for you? I've known you a much shorter time than I've known Sajil, but your passion for this army's come through like pretty quickly, pretty obviously, like on the Discord, like sort of mutual Discord servers, and I think that's a huge testament to your passion for this army. So, why Sylvaneth for you?
It's gonna be a little bit of a longer story, if you don't mind if
No, no, this
I
is called
tell.
Rantcast.
All right.
This is lean in.
All right. So, um, I haven't been playing like Warhammer or anything Warhammer for very long, like last 3 years ish, with most of that being through COVID. I used to bowl a lot, and a couple years ago I hurt my knee, so I ended up stopping, and I needed a new hobby. So we wanted to do miniatures painting together because my wife is an artist. So we looked at the Age of Sigmar stuff because we like fantasy, we like Lord of the Rings. And when we went to our local game store, looked at some of the start collecting boxes. My wife really likes, we both like nature, and we just kind of settled on trees. Like, oh, there's an army of trees. Let's get trees. Let's paint them. So I kind of got into that right as 2.0 started. So yeah, about 3-ish years ago,
Yeah.
kind of fell out of it, and then we went to my wife and I went to the Netherlands for vacation about 3 years ago, 2019, and I picked up Drycha at a Warhammer store in Utrecht, where my friends lived. So I came back and realized that we actually did have a Games Workshop store here in Madison. So I started going there and learned how to play, and just that was my first army. I just started picking it up, and I got pretty good with it for starting out. And a lot of it is the aesthetic. It's trees, big ass trees are awesome. My wife loves painting them. My wife wanted to paint Alarielle, so we painted Alarielle together this past year. And it's just been a really fun and interesting army to play, because there's a lot of different ways that you can play it, and it's like a jack of all trades army, and I like that. So like it's not just nothing's cut and dry with the army, and I have a lot of it now, and it's so much fun to play.
I think you both mentioned a couple things that I think are kind of poignant or pertinent to the Sylvaneth player experience. And the first one that you both had like kind of connections with is like Lord of the Rings. And I just kind of ambiently I'm wondering, if a majority of Sylvaneth players would have that like share that LOTR connection. Just kind of wondering to the ether here. Um and like it's really funny because like I was a pretty big LOTR stan myself, but I liked the Black Riders a lot as like when I was a kid. Like I was just obsessed with them. They looked sweet. They had the freaking hoods and the gauntlets. Like it just thought they were awesome. I remember this one art of like the actual Black Riders and like the black and white. I don't know if it's the Tom Young art or whatever it was, or if it's actually Tolkien's art. I just remember seeing it like, and it had this like kind of unnatural angle and gallop to it, and it was just it just looked sick and really jagged line work and stuff. And I just remember seeing that and just being like, these things are dope, and so you fast forward a little bit and sort of like Wraith and Grim Reaper aesthetic. Like I still like that to this day. And part of the reason, my Grim Reapers need to have some bones to them. Like I like that. I don't like the pure ghostly ones, but that LOTR love, I think, that's such a jumping off point for so many fantasy fans. Certainly like the older generations of fantasy fans, that it's interesting when you find that harmony with the tabletop game. So that just noting. But the other aspect of this is an army that's had like the best of times and the worst of times. A lot of, in particular, second edition. There's a period at the tail end of first ed, maybe it was the beginning of second ed as well. Yeah, it was the beginning of second ed as well.
Yeah.
Where they were kind of unstoppable. Depending on battle plan. Like they looked at
I heard.
they had like a couple one drop mega battalions. They looked at the battle plan and they said, "I'm going to drop on this, and you're not going to win."
Yeah.
And then it felt like that second book came out and they lost some of their steam, but that's where you really saw the hardcore stands, I think, emerge. What were your experiences? Sajil, I'll start with you. Like your experience with this sort of ebb and flow.
Sure. So I've been playing Sylvaneth back before there were points.
Okay.
The
Dark
one of the
Ages.
first games. Yeah, one of the first games I played, it was like 6 tree lords versus 4 what are they called? Vermin
Lords?
No, not vermin lords, the other thing, the pit fiend thing, hell pit abomination.
Okay.
That was like one of my first games of Age of Sigmar. And it was insane and brilliant and I loved it. And that hooked me. But with the power spike of like 2.0 or 1.0 into 2.0 with the mega battalions, and then like I'm one of those people who, something's meta or good, let me just put that on the shelf. And like I think I transitioned into Corn during that period because it's like, yeah, I could play this and raffle stomp and just do the thing that wins, but that's not fun for me.
Yeah.
So then when the new book came, well, I have a lot of insight into the new book coming out and why it was so bad. Because if you remember, there was a snafu where all the Sylvaneth rules leaked or partially leaked.
Yeah, it went up on the iTunes store, as I recall.
Went onto the Yep. And immediately the book was bad. And no one really tried anything. It was just labeled bad. Kind of like a knee-jerk reaction. And I feel like there were some things, it just wasn't the same book at all. So because
Yeah.
it wasn't the same thing, it's you see this in video games and fighting games all the time. When something gets nerfed, the majority, or when something gets changed, majority dumps it onto the floor. Um, and because there isn't that huge volume of people playing, and also with fighting games, cool, I want to try a new thing,
Anyway,
or
yeah,
something
like
gets changed.
yeah.
Sure, let me load that character. Okay, 3 seconds later, I'm playing it. Age of Sigmar, something gets radically changed, and I've never touched it before. Oh, I want to try that. Let me just give that a test. Okay.
That's
Several hundred hours later.
Yeah, I mean, it takes the time component of our game is insane.
Mhm.
Even with TTS, you're still looking at a 2 hour 2 hour grind, like to grind out and see if you like the thing. With a fighting
Yeah.
game character, like if you're grinding for 2 hours, like you've learned all your combos, like
Yeah.
you've gotten a better feel for that. You maybe gone into the online matchmaking, like it's
That's 100 games potentially if
Yeah.
you're playing really fast.
Yeah, like I mean, the 90-second timers in the games. It's you're
Yeah.
at the mercy of the queue timers and finding opponents at that
Yeah.
point. If you're in a room with a friend, like how I
Oh, yeah.
ground out most of my like hashtag getting good at some fighters and stuff. I mean, we're just beating the crap out of each other for like hours, and
Yeah.
we emerge from that like weekend of gaming pretty damn good at fighters. Age of Sigmar doesn't really have that. You got to practice with purpose very intently to like kind of get that volume of learning with an army. And when you're talking about like the time component of also until TTS really having to build or proxy something, even that's another time sink. And I think something happens to your point where people have an opportunity to sort of like play something else. If your whole army has changed, like say you're running like 120 dryads, right? And that's kind of your like play style. 120 dryads, like maybe you have some Kurnoth in there and like a
Yeah.
couple.
12 Kurnoth was the old list.
Yeah.
And
And now they're like, actually, you need 60 tree revenants, and I'm just I don't know the inner workings of it. You need 60 tree revenants, shelve all your dryads, like buy Drycha, she's suddenly good, like the Tree Lord Ancients, never been in play, so don't worry about that. Ha ha ha, her. Or no, the regular Tree Lord, right?
yeah.
The there's something happens where I think like some of our emotion is to kind of like pull away from the thing that we've invested a bunch of time in, and like you have this like, well, I can either buy my same army again, like fully reinvest in it, or since I'm looking at like basically buying and painting 60 new models, well, what else is out there? What else is good? And I think that happens a lot more than we care to admit. I saw it happen with Tzeentch. Like the way Tzeentch was played, kind of like coming into 2.0 was like rather oppressive, Skyfires and the like.
Yeah.
And like they just turbo nerf Skyfires. And I'm like, Tzeentch stayed relevant, but you had to shift off of Skyfires. And nobody wanted to like do that, so they just went and played other stuff because like there's a lot of these armies that like they don't get bad. They just shift what's good. And it makes sense because it's a business. They're trying to sell you models. If you own the Tree Revenant half of the book, the next swing of the pendulum, they're going to try to sell you the Dryad half of the book. Or if you own Mortals and Khorne, they're going to try to sell you Demons and Khorne. And that it's just going to that pendulum keeps swinging with everybody's army. And I felt it. I felt it the most with LON because they just went through and the patch fix to Grimghast Reapers plus Nagash was so overt. It went through and it crippled a bunch of other stuff in that book, and I had to sit there and go, well, what am I going to do now? And I know the most competitive thing I can think of, Beasts of Chaos, right? Like that's
obviously
always Cygor spam.
Right.
That's the way.
I've been talking for a minute here, Aaron. What are you kind of your perspective on that pendulum swing, that ebb and flow of it?
Well, I really didn't get to experience what Sylvaneth was in 1.0 because that was right. The new book really came out. The leaks came out, about 6 weeks after I kind of got back into it. So a lot of my perspective is from the new book. But doing a comparison from 1.0 to the 2.0, because I have the 1.0 book, is that I think I got a little bummed when it seemed like they took a lot of the toys that Sylvaneth had and gave them to other armies. Which
You want to
so like
clarify like what
yeah,
those toys are? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, absolutely. So one of the big ones for me was Narroot. The super battalion for Narroot could at 1.0 all of your spellcasters could cast an extra spell.
Mhm.
They gave that to Hollowheart just for free. That's what. mine's on the shelves. Like that's
I
that's one example of it. Um,
huh.
so it was just getting used to a new, for me it was just getting used to how to play in general.
Mhm.
But I had to learn with the new book.
Mhm.
And it took, and then and then COVID happened, and then well, game stopped for a while.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's I'm sure I can't really talk a whole lot about the changes from 1 to 2. Um,
But how do
but
you feel? How do you feel about just the idea of like like right now the pendulum is gonna swing in a different way? Like are you like excited or how do you
I
feel
am.
about it?
No, I am, and I feel like I feel like it has already swung in 3.0.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
even in the middle of 3.0, like from the end of 2 into 3, and I think even for me specifically into 3, that pendulum has already swung.
Mhm.
Where when I was playing a lot of Kurnoth, a lot of 6 pack of size, some 3 packs of swords, even some bows. Um, you know, they're so many points now for what you get, and I've shifted to more of some of the monster and spell casting.
Mm.
And now, I've played a lot with like some minimum model armies, but now I'm starting to see how packs of dryads can start creeping back into lists now and
Mhm.
actually be relevant. So I already see that swinging currently. In
Yeah.
terms of the future for like future models, I'm not exactly sure, but I am excited because I like trying new things.
I like that. I like that. I feel like the urge and sometimes how I unpack the sort of pendulum metaphor sometimes portrays it as like a negative thing, because I'm gonna have to buy another army. There's capitalist shills trying to steal my dollars. Like
My good thing is bad now.
my
Yeah.
good thing is bad now. But if you kind of alter perspective to think that like no, actually I have an excuse to like explore more of the range of my army, that's a lot more of a positive view than like, oh no, the thing I love isn't how I play this anymore. Because that pendulum, by the way, will keep swinging. Once you get into your second and third army in AOS, and here's a secret about all AOS players, uh, they're always buying models. Like once you're in AOS, you're always buying models. It's just what models are you buying? Are you buying it for your forever home army? Are you going out there and exploring some vacation home options? Like we're always buying stuff. If if vampires didn't come out, I would have been buying a lot more Slanesh, like for this last period. And maybe I'm projecting a little bit because I'm always buying AOS models, um
There's
but
my
yeah.
pile of dragons.
Yeah, pile of dragons, yeah. No,
Pile of dragons.
I'm glad. I cooled on the dragons. I was really excited about them. I was gonna do a vampire Lord on zombie dragon conversion, but then I remembered my creature caster one. I'm like, I'm okay. Like marked safe from buying dragons. 2021,
Yeah,
2022.
that's okay. I'll buy them on your behalf.
Thank you. Thank you. Someone's gotta share the load, carry the burden here. GDED dropping a tier 1 sub, or gifting a tier 1 sub to Roybos. There you go. Roybos will actually be on the show first week of February. We're going to actually talk video games. Topic Sajil has some experience with programming.
Yes.
Uh, Sajil with the coolest box art they've made on the wall.
Hmm. Oh.
Frank on the rock saying,
Oh, Hammerhall, yeah.
right on. So yeah. I guess we kind of touched on it a little bit. So we talked about 2.0, and 2.0 was sort of characterized by like sort of a like kind of like a I don't mean lost as in forgot where this was. Sort of like a just sort of a meandering. Um, not many people really seem to know what to make of Sylvaneth and especially the tail end of 2.0. going into 3.0, I feel like 3.0, one thing it did for every army out there is breathe some new life into it. When you see, people taking these like wacky Slanesh lists, that a book that everyone thinks is just the worst, running 4-1 with it, and like, the player agency of the game is so much higher right now with extra decision points in the game, the way the objectives play. There's just so much more player agency. It feels like kind of like I can really, if I'm good at my army, I really do have a shot at piloting it, to a victory, as opposed to like 2.0. That margin of player skill seems to have increased in relevancy. So where do you think? And we kind of towed on it a little bit here, but what's the feeling in 3.0? 3.0 is young, right? We're 1 year into 3.0 now by this point. I think it's 1
6
year.
months.
Yeah, but
6
can
months.
you really count some of it? Like
I mean,
the
that's the
opening.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, there's this like false start going on with the tournament scenes. Like, I don't know how developed the meta doesn't feel fully developed, or in what they'd say in Magic the Gathering, the meta doesn't seem solved. The meta's not solved right now. I think there's still, like, shooting is certainly just the elephant in the room for the whole meta. The powerful shooting armies just seem to be the primary gatekeepers, and of course early on we had Gargants really kind of dominating the scene. But again, it does feel like we talked about that time component. The average, that sort of fat middle of players, I don't think they've fully solved the army. I guess what I'm saying is, like, this is a good time to bring them out. To actually go back to your old armies, go back to Sylvaneth. I know Tyler Emerson, the forever co-host of Warhammer Weekly, is a huge Sylvaneth stan, and all throughout 2.0, he's like, I think there's something in this book. I think there's something in this book. He was just absolutely committed to that. And do you find in 3.0 you have a renewed vigor for it? Do you think there's some meta to solve with this army? Like you said, Aaron, like Dryads, you think you see them coming back in packs and stuff like that. What's your read, Sigil? Let's start with you.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of life to be breathed in. Like, I've been banging the alternate meta drum for a while. I've been crunching numbers with, like, because the point changes from 2 to 1, or
2 to 3.
from 2 to 3 made a huge difference for Sylvaneth. Like, the graphs on like what does the most damage in the army got way shifted, a lot more than I think a lot of people realize. And then with things being brought in smaller numbers, like, cool, I can't bring 12 sides anymore. I can't just take 15 or 12 swords and just shove them at a person anymore. So it's like, I feel like because there's fewer people also playing, it's like we're slower to react. So, well, let's just keep trying, because there's so much new stuff to learn in 3.0, and that was a huge barrier for me. Like, I didn't want to 3.0 dropped and I didn't play for a while because it was like, one, woods were being weird. The rules changes just pushed me off, and
they changed like 3 times.
Which beta version are we on now?
Yeah. And it's like, what do I have to learn? Which books do I bring? Do I bring Kragnos?
Yeah.
Do I not bring Kragnos? I don't know anymore.
Yeah, Wildwood Beta 3.4, like One Inch Heroes with the rating party of 5. Thank you so much. Welcome to AOS Rantcast. How's it going?
Years.
Yeah. I suppose
with the woods, I just assumed that because it survived woods only work because they survived the last FAQ. Like, they have to go one FAQ cycle in order to actually be usable.
Yep. Yeah, and just the core game is still so much to solve. Like, the way unit coherency works, the way objectives matter so much more now, in a weird way. Like, in a really weird way, because you need objectives, but you also need to, half your devotion needs to be on battle tactics, which is its own mind-bending thing. And I think Sylvaneth have so many ways of dealing with all of that. It's just not, I kill you. Because it's not, hey, I'm Sylvaneth, I kill you. It's, hey, I'm Sylvaneth, I'm doing all the things and just waiting.
Well, it's
in my woods.
it's such a
100%
control
with you.
army. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a control army. Like you have to. I mean, I think there's something to be said like for we talk about like psychographic profiles, the Johnny Timmy Spike. Um,
Mhm.
when you play an army, this goes with the pendulum swing. If your favorite model in the army is just on the wrong side of the pendulum at the time, or it also goes to like if you're not looking for Johnny gameplay and an army is a Johnny army, you're gonna feel some disharmony.
Mhm.
You know, like I see this with like Corn. Like feels like it should be like Spike as all hell, but it's or not Spike as all hell. Timmy is all hell, but
Mhm.
it's kind of very Johnny. You know, with the Venn diagrams of buffs and all that sort of thing. Looking for combos with all your hero buffs and with Sylvaneth, I think there was a period in time there where it did feel very Spike and
Okay,
like
just give me a refresher of which one's which again.
Spike
'cause-
is obsessed with efficiency. Usually
Okay.
gets the bad stereotype of Spike, which we don't stand here in this channel. Is that they're like a try harder must win type player. You can
Yep.
be Spike is out to prove something.
Yes.
Like Johnny is out to express something. Johnny is like the creative list builder, likes combos. And Timmy wants to experience something. They like the big effect. They like the big thing.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
right
it's Timmy
now,
and Johnny that I always flip.
yeah, I think Sylvaneth probably seats it pretty well in the Johnny play style. I mean, and MSU has I think helped this army a lot more than people realize because people don't. Okay, there was that period in time where like stuff could just blow up 30 dryads that like one, you know, but like not many like packs of 5 or 10 can deal with like 20 dryads. There's not a lot that can do
Yeah.
that. You know, like
Especially when you can get them save stack to +3 like that.
like
Like
I
Go ahead.
recently had a game where I had 19 dryads not within the -1 to hit bubble survive a pack of 13 melee snakes.
yep.
And then they got and then there were no more snakes because there were 2 Dirthu behind there coming in the next turn.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, so 3.0 you think has kind of like left you with some optimism, I guess, would be not to put words in your guys' mouth, but to kind of summarize it here. Go ahead, summarize 3.0. We'll just getting our state of the meta for Sylvaneth out of the way here. Go ahead, Aaron. I'll let you go.
Sure. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. That optimism I think is almost an understatement for me, because of the amount of angles in this book that you can build armies in this book that I've at least noticed. Um, you know, going back to 2.0, you had to you got points for every objective you controlled. In this one, it's not that. It's not that in most of the scenarios. It's 1, 2 more, so you don't have to spread your army out so much in order to hold all the objectives. You could focus on 1 to 2, 2 objectives usually, which makes it a lot easier to keep all of your units within your buffs, making your army stronger overall. And we can do battle tactics very well too and be able to take advantage of the GUR rules for extra points with monsters. Because we have a lot of monster heroes, we have units that can, we can play the teleport game really well, especially with Tree Revenants. That's almost free battle tactic right there. So there's a lot of different ways that you could build to not have to tech into combat, but still be able to control the board and score your battle tactics and just accumulate a small lead over your opponent and can maintain that.
Yeah.
Really interesting read. Sajil, say the meta. Anything to add to what Aaron said?
Nothing really to add in particular. Just hearing from my opponents that I've played since 3.0 started, they always tell me, "Oh, geez, I feel like you were dismantling me." And then something happened. Like even when they win, they feel like I was just taking their army apart piece by piece, and it's kind of a rush to see, okay, can I hold objectives and over here be completely messing with you because I have my Kurnoth and my Dirthu over here just kind of waiting. And you're like, oh, I need to. So with Sylvaneth, I always feel like I'm in the driver's seat.
That's awesome.
I always feel like I'm the one who is like, okay, cool. I have these guys, teleport them to the other side of the board. All right, turn 3, shut my entire army right on top of Kragnos.
Yeah.
That was a mistake.
So,
I did it just for the fun of it, though. That was a narrative game. And
there you go. There, no, you got to do that. No, so like the feeling of in the driver's seat, like kind of having a more active army. I think that's all. Like these are all really great points, and hopefully get some people who are out there like they've got their Sylvaneth and they're looking at it affectionately over on the shelf to maybe dust it off and take it for a spin. But so kind of caught up on the state and brief history of Sylvaneth. But what we're really gathered here tonight is to enhancenate their artifacts, because all artifacts in Age of Sigmar suck, and we're going to make them all way better, right? That's the line anyway. So something I've been trying to get across with this Great Enhancing series is essentially like sort of principles of design. And we are designers. We're not so concerned with the number crunching, or maybe you are. Maybe you're on the developer side. We'll get into that. Real quick, CJ Ubusta dropping her tier 1 sub, saying let's go. 6 years of support. Thank you so much, like that. And Wizardry dropping a tier 1 sub for 50 years. That subscription can order off of the seniors menu almost at IHOP. So
let's get that baby. It's a AARP card.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, so Great Enhancing. I just real quick, so you all have designed some artifacts. I hear there's been some traits in there. CJ Ubusta now dropping a 5-pack in chat of gift subs, so go ahead and enjoy those gift subs, everybody. And we'll see if here we go. Ruby Rod's gonna pipe in over me here. So I'm trying to transition. Just get ganked by Ruby Rod. Totally derailed. Thank you so much, CJ. Look at that grip. Yeah. Your design principles. Okay, so my main thing is wanting people to like sort of take a passionate approach to their armies and artifacts. There's just for a lack of a better metaphor or a more universal metaphor. When the DOK book came out, sort of going into 3.0, I looked at that book and I went, that was a book written with like passion. It felt like just there were somebody who got the army was like, yes, this is everything we want, right? We want our stupid queen to be immortal. We want we want our archers to be insane. We want Kraith to like have its activating powers, like just kind of go off the map. Soulblight Gravelords I think is the same way, where like someone's like, I love wolves and zombies, and it just when you feel that passion behind it, I think it's almost the most integral part of making a good army. I wish that Games Workshop just kept one Stan on staff for every single book to just go in and like absolutely propagate the like boardroom with like just chicanery about how awesome their army is and how awesome it should be. You should really just unleash your creativity, think about the just the coolest shit you can come up with, and let somebody else down the line deal with making it balanced. That's my personal philosophy.
We need a Kool-Aid man for every army.
Yeah, Kool-Aid just bust. Yeah, exactly. Kool-Aid man for every army. Just, oh yeah, like smash through the wall. Like, have you buffed Sylvaneth yet? Like, he just comes in there, like the Lord will dropping a 5-pack off in chat himself with those gift subs. So thank you so much for that, Lord Will. Proving his name apt. Whale being a euphemism for people with all the dosh.
Generosity, you mean?
Yeah.
And supporting your starving game devs.
That's right. Yeah. I got kids.
Okay, he's Slater.
He's rocking the Kenny Omega shirt, so I knew someone would get that.
Speaking of that, I need to order my Red Dragon shirt tonight.
Oh, Red Dragon. Yeah,
this is not wrestling WrestleCast. But...
So if you're playing the AOS Rantcast drinking game, this is where you actually get to have a drink of milk, something healthy, water, hydrate, because this is tangent number 1, wrestling. I own an Eddie Kingston shirt. It's the first wrestling T-shirt I have owned since like elementary school. I can't help it. I'm just obsessed with his narrative. His like to go on the Player Tribune, which is like, you know, the professional sports athletes thing. I know not everyone who listens to Warhammer stuff understands sports ball. I get it. It's me, it's not you. You're okay. It's me. I'm the fucking weirdo here. But he went and talked about his mental health and like his struggles with the substance abuse and mental health issues and stuff like that. And you don't do that in wrestling. Wrestling is this like in like the kayfabe of wrestling, the culture of wrestling, the politics of wrestling. To go in there and talk about a wrestler's suicide, to like talk about like his mental health issues, it's like if he didn't secure the bag with AEW, he would be blackballed from every wrestling organization on the face of the planet right now. Because
it is an amazing read. Like even if you're not a wrestling fan, I highly recommend reading it.
Yeah, anytime he says something about wrestling, just insert Warhammer. Like he's talking about Warhammer and his struggle to play Warhammer, like and get paid professionally to play Warhammer, the thing he loves the most in the world. It is an amazing read, and I immediately became the biggest Eddie Kingston mark in the world when I read that article. Just amazing.
He's got a great shirt for it. Redeem D's nuts.
I got it.
You're welcome. I'm gonna make him spit out his tea, everybody.
The Earl Grey hot's gonna be all over my camera and microphone.
Get up your nose. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, there we go.
You're welcome.
So, now that you all had a nice enjoyable glass of milk here, Aaron, what was your design approach going into this? Like, what were you prioritizing? Like, just for instance here, this all kind of kicked off with like SJ Arcade and Frank. SJ Arcade's like pretty much central design philosophy, his first principle, his only principle was, I want you to not take Amulet of Destiny. That was so he just went in there, I'm just going to make stuff better than Amulet of Destiny. That was his guiding principle. You had passion and then the principle of like, these are going to be better than Amulet of Destiny. You know, now everything's better than Amulet of Destiny. But at the time, it was a noble cause. So what's your design approach to your artifacts this evening?
So one, I wanted to take an approach of something that, so like I like to play like I like to try to play, you know, high-powered armies, but put my own twist on them. And I wanted artifacts that I would find to be fun to play, and that would fit the theme of Sylvaneth, you know, being able to interact with the woods, the wilderness, as kind of an homage to, you know, the length of time that a tree can live.
Okay.
You know, and just fun, really.
Fun.
You know, kind of fun. And one of them, you know, I think for me is, you know, maybe Sajil has a little different perspective. I actually think the artifacts in this book are extremely good.
Interesting.
For the most part, there's a lot of really good choices out of the 31 that's in the book, the 24 generic plus 7 subfaction ones. There's a lot of really good choices in this book in general, and it's hard to pick all of them, especially if you go with subfaction, because some of the subfaction ones are really good, but some of them are but the generic ones are really good.
Do they still have Acorn?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Like, never see it right now.
Never see it. It's not. Never see it.
Really?
But, yeah.
Yep. It's because of the rules for the woods now is just ass. Kinda.
It's so weird because the woods technically got better. Like they do more now, which I mean they do.
They do, but it's harder to get them on the board sometimes.
No, it's easier because they're not the huge. Well, it was easier. So for 2 months, it was so good.
It was how it should be.
It was
Broken
amazing.
Realms. It was perfect. They had fixed trees.
Well, because we're back
not even
to Broken
that.
Realms. They did another one. It was the other one that was the broken one. Because you could set up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, instead of speaking around it, maybe Sajil explain this for people who don't play Sylvaneth.
Oh, sure. So Kragnos drops, and we have the woods as they are now. They got better because now instead of it used to be a 6-up mortal wound, once per phase. It now was a potentially a 4-up if you had a wizard near it, and it was every round. I think I'm a little bit.
It was. I guess I'll chime in.
Mhm.
It was if you cast it, if a wizard cast a spell near it on a 5-up that successfully cast and not unbound. On a during the hero phase, on a 5-up, it deals D3 mortal wounds to enemies, and then in the
Those were the
charge phase,
original.
yeah, and then a
Yeah.
charge phase was a 6-up.
Yeah. And then in Kragnos, they turned it to what it is now, which is just in the charge phase, it's a 6-up unless you have a wizard near it, in which case it's a 4-up. Which, cool, that's much better than the other thing.
Yes.
And
Can
then,
I chime in one thing real
sure.
quick? And it's not. I don't mean to cut you off.
No,
It,
no, no.
It just for clarification, it's not
Mhm.
just your wizard. It's
Yeah.
a wizard or
Right.
an endless spell within 6, not just
Yeah.
yours.
And then they launched 3.0 and just took that war scroll and threw it into a fire. They said, "You don't need this. Yeet. Goodbye." And I forget what it was, because at that point I mentally checked out and was like, I'm not touching this until whatever is solved, because... So do you remember what it was? I know that you could set up 3 models
Yes.
anywhere in the range instead
Yes.
of... Go ahead.
Yeah, so I played my first GT in July with this rule. So it used to be that when 3.0 dropped, they did the big 3.0 patch. The woods changed so that you could either place a ring of 3 or because the wording up to 3 individual trees within range and distance, like 3 inches apart from each other, 3 inches from mostly everything, which was amazing. But then people complained because it blocked a lot of movement stuff for the big pipe plate things, and Gargant players were mad.
It was the solution to Gargants.
It was amazing.
It was the Gargant
Slayer.
silver bullet.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
fun. That's funny.
And they destroyed it.
All right,
They
so
said, no, you can't have it.
no, you can't.
Yes,
have it.
and then they
Too
took
perfect.
that away. I was like, oh.
Too perfect for this world. They'll get it right one of these days. Right now, they seem to have stabilized at the very least, though. So
Yeah.
So that's a good
Yes.
thing. So, Jill,
And
what? Go ahead.
I think I actually like this, even though that version I think was really good, that it had an interaction with the monstrous actions to actually make the woods not work for us in the way that they needed to. So I think the way that they currently do now is fine. The Kragnos War Scroll is fine.
Okay. See, I want them to. I want them to have like a tree, and then be able to like turn existing terrain pieces into wildwoods, basically.
Yeah, that's
Like,
been...
I think that's really like, I mean, this is the fix. I don't know why they don't do this. Like, do sell me extra models. Don't get me wrong. I want to buy extra models, but like only like a extra model. Like one terrain piece feels right. Even though like they come in a box of 3, fine. You get the 3, whatever. Like that's fine. But that's it. And then from there, like, let me overgrow terrain rather than putting more trees on the table. I think that's just the way to go. But I digress on that. What was your design philosophy then, Sajil?
So my design philosophy was kind of like, first off, fun at the top, but then right below that close is, let's try and make it feel right. Let's look at Maggotkin, the new stuff. Let's try and match that as close as we can, because like Aaron said, the artifacts in the book are great. The problem I have is Glades, because it locks you in and says, hey, all these cool toys, you can't use them unless you invest in them, and even then you're probably only ever going to be able to pick one.
Okay. So yours is more of a function of solving how you get them for the most part.
No, not so much that, just a function of, okay, let's make it feel right.
Okay.
Let's make it feel, if you saw these, you would be like, oh yeah, that seems like it was published by GW. And then in the best way, in the broken way, in the ooh, that's hitting just right.
The sort of Japan, in the sort of Japan way, or sort of judgment.
Sure. Yeah. And then the other thing was, how can I make stuff interesting? How can I make it not like, there's so much play space, let's actually explore some of that instead of, because the one weird thing with Sylvaneth is it kind of wants to pull you apart in like a million ways. Like, hey, you need trees, so here's things that focus on trees, but if you do that, then you don't want tree revenants, but you don't want these, so if you want these, you want need, so let's yeet that into the sun, and let's allow you to like, ooh, this is, I love these models, let me make an army that's these like, let me focus these guys.
Yeah. I mean,
So
that's where Soulblight Gravelords is currently the best book in Age of Sigmar. You can at me, everybody, at @mr_MEPH. It used to be War Clans in 2.0 was, I think, the best overall book, but they killed the crab with the new book. It's not like the high watermark's not as good as Soulblight Gravelords. It's outperforming them. That's fine. Whatever. That's not what I'm talking about when I say the book is good. If you look at, you crack open the Soulblight Gravelords book and you're like, I want to play all the zombies. They're like, we got you. I want to play wolves. We got you. I want to play Blood Knights. We got you. Like, it's just, and you're like, no, I want to play like a nice little, like, Neapolitan grab bag toolbox army. They're like, you know what? We got you for that too. Like, it's just that ability to pivot. Everything kind of has its place. You look at a war scroll and you go, I know how to play this. I know what I'm supposed to do with this. Like, it's just perfect. And you're trying to bring some of that to Sylvaneth.
Yeah, because it is not that with Sylvaneth at all. You see a war scroll in Sylvaneth, you're like, oh yeah, Alarielle, 4 damage. I'm just gonna yeet her. She's got a 16-inch move. Let's just yeet her turn 1.
And she's gone.
And she's gone.
And
Just 700 points. And you're like, what? But she heals every turn. How is she dead in 1 turn?
And then she's gone.
Hey, that's a crit. Welcome to the chat. First time chatter. How's it going?
I know that guy.
Having the Glades be DK says having the Glades be additive would be nice. Just taking Gnarlroot because re-rolling ones is too good feels bad. Also, the new book better have Tree Lord battle line, and maybe the Tree Lord has some Dryad synergy.
That's the thing. You can get re-rolling ones in so many ways with this book. You don't need Gnarlroot at all.
No.
You're taking Gnarlroot for the Chalice, and even then, and for Alarielle shooting, which has always baffled me. But whatever. I digress.
I tend to go rant. I tend to go with Winterleaf. That's kind of my go-to. I'll take Gnarlroot if I'm gonna go Warsong Bomb or if I'm going Drycha.
Yeah. Drycha.
Otherwise,
really?
otherwise, yeah, with Gnarlroot with Drycha is bonkers.
Yeah.
But I like Winterleaf. I'm like, yeah, I'll double tap on those 5 damage, horde the beetle attacks. Yeah, I'll double tap on those 6 damage Dirthu attacks. Thank you.
Yeah.
I can get reroll 1s with other ways.
Right.
So many other ways.
So I'm going to answer this question here real quick from That's a Crit, and then we'll kind of move into. You've got 6 artifacts, Sajil, so I'll have you start with an artifact, and we'll have you kind of bookend it on either side here, and then Aaron's got 4. Says, what makes me say Soulblight is the best book? What would a good Blood Knight list be? So
he's a huge Soulblight fan, by the way.
So number 1, I am a paragon of objectivity. Objectivity is totally a thing. It really exists, and I exemplify it at all times. That's why I can objectively measure that Death is the best Grand Alliance in Age of Sigmar. So now that we have my sort of credentials and credibility beyond contestation,
Everqueen.
Yeah. Soulblight Gravelords, kind of what I was already mentioning. One of the things that I think makes it like the best book in Age of Sigmar currently is, with the exception of the fact that as an army, it doesn't have shooting, and that's just not a phase that Death plays in. Maybe we don't play in the shooting phase because we get regen, and that's like the trade-off we get. But if you start to think that way, you will hurt your own feelings, because there's entire Chaos armies out there that have summoning, regen, and shooting, and they play in all phases of the game, and they give up nothing. Siege, siege. Sorry. But there's. The reason I think Death is specifically Soulblight Gravelords is the best book currently in Age of Sigmar 3.0 is it has to do with the sort of design of it, not the power of it. Design is separate from power. It does settle in comfortably in the fat middle, which is where I think you want to be as an army. You don't want to be looking over your shoulder for nerfs. If your book is like the top tier contender, like 5.0 army book, you're always looking over your shoulder for the next GHB to drop and like just kill something in your list. I don't like living in that space. I like to live in that like that 3-2. If I'm really good, I can take it 4-1. If I'm 3-2, play out of my mind, like, and get lucky in the pairings, I might be able to like go 5-0. But basically, I like to be playing for a best in faction style seating. Like that's where I want to be. So Soulblight Gravelords, competitively speaking, like nestles in very nicely in its win rate because it's a balanced book. But most importantly, it's about being able to, like what I said, pick up a model or a war scroll in that book, look at it and go, I know how to play this. You look at zombies and zombies with their 6-inch pile in and their mortal wounds proccing and their paper armor say, you are going to activate these from 6 inches and try to pop mortal wounds. This is an offensive unit. You know, it's telling you that this is a cheeky offensive unit on the war scroll. It's telling you how to play it. You know that if you get them stuck in, they're going to explode. Skeletons, on the other hand, say, oh, like they bring skeletons back after they've lost skeletons. And you look at that and you're like, wait, oh, I'm supposed to activate these second. Or do some tricks with Van Hells once you get into advanced strats. But you look at them and you go, oh, like I want these to like screen and take a charge because like if they lose units, then they get more units back. Like it's telling you how to play with each of the models. There are buff pieces that non-prohibitively like buff, like you're like, oh, this is for the wolves. But it doesn't say this is for the wolves and you can't take anything else, which is the trap a lot of like buff pieces often fall into. You look at the buff piece that says you only get to take this if you're playing a wolf heavy list. They don't say that. They go, oh, this is like super useful for all these things. But just so you know, if you bring wolves, you're going to do better. This is where Belladama Volga is like the perfect piece that sort of exemplifies this. Not only does she bring buffs for wolves if you bring her, she creates her own wolves even if you didn't bring wolves to buff. It's brilliant. And then she brings like buffs to the table that like accentuate any list you'd play her in. She excels by playing her in a list with wolves. But if you're like I'm going to play like a bunch of Blood Knights and I'm going to play like Castle Dynasty, you're still looking at this like 200-point double caster with a great spell and going, I kind of want to play her anyway. Like it doesn't feel like locked in a way that other armies feel locked. And then when you start to look at the sub-allegiances, they really start to point you in directions for certain builds. So it really sort of, it helps you build the army, it helps you play the army, and it tells you on the war scrolls what to play with. The other thing is just like most everything in the book has a use. So to answer this sort of like second part of your question, what's a good Blood Knight list? Well, that's a trick question. If you want to, you can bring 5 Blood Knights into basically any list 5 or 10 Blood Knights into basically any list you would run. They're, for what they do, they're solid. I
Crit
believe
wants
in
all the Blood Knights.
What's that?
Crit wants all the Blood Knights forever.
Oh, in which case you want 20 Blood Knights and Nagash. Like, done and done. Like in Castle Dynasty. No, I would probably go something like 10 to 15 Blood Knights in Castle Dynasty with like a Velazda or Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, maybe a second Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon or Vordry. So you're rocking a double dragon list with like 15 Blood Knights and a Coven Throne. I haven't run the math on the points, but it should roughly check out. Like you can like, and I think you can still get a block of skeletons in there for screening and stuff. So like there's some really solid like sort of lists. I like to take a little bit more of a balanced list than like spam 30 Blood Knights, but I do own 25 Blood Knights. So I like double dragon lists right now, or at least one Vlasta. It depends on like how much utility you want to bring. It feels silly not to bring like a necromancer and some zombies or something. Like they're just so efficient. But I digress. Yeah.
So now that rant is over, Meph, how do you feel about OCR?
How do I feel about Ossiarch Bone Reapers?
I'm gonna need to fill my drink again if we're gonna go on this.
We'll circle back. Ask me again later. Let's get to our
Sure.
first artifact here, because I'm gonna need to refill my drink too. This is poor Aaron. He's like, dude, I was up so late last night. He's just like, like I hope this isn't like a 3-hour rant cast again. And
I was actually up until 2 a.m. doing a YouTube video for another YouTube channel for a little mini AOS tournament they're doing. So yeah, I'm tired.
That's a crit saying I run 20 Blood Knights and 60 Skellies with a mix of heroes. I think that's admirable. Coven Throne and Blood Knights is a power pair. Like, you ask me what's a good Blood Knights list? A good Blood Knights list runs a Coven Throne and a cavalcade of Blood Knights. Coven Throne is one of the seriously overlooked pieces in Soulblight Gravelords. And it just got better. It just went down like 20 or 30 points. I can't believe people weren't playing it with it before, but now everybody's going to be playing with it because everybody listens to my show. And I've been talking about how good Coven Throne is now for like 6 months. So everyone's going to start playing it. Or maybe not everybody listens to my show, but like I'm your favorite content creator's favorite content creator, and they listen to my show, and they've been saying that Coven Throne is good because I told them to say it. So, Sigil, what's your first artifact, my friend?
All right. So first up, I have the Lementiri of Koldari. Let's see here. Do you want me to read the? I did a little
Absolutely, absolutely.
Sure.
I demand it.
This scion was always the first to fight, and holding his Lamentary spurs other scions to follow in his wake. Tree Revenants, wholly within 12 inches of a model with this artifact, fight first, effectively. So it is a Tree Revenant buff. Little bubble of just cool. They fight first, no matter what. Tree Revenants, they die. That is their bane. Tree Revenants are paper. They can teleport anywhere. They can reroll their charges for free. But if they fight second, they are dead. So, they always fight first. You take this artifact, they're golden.
Perfect. So it's got a use. It's got an application. This is an artifact you put in an army. You know what you're doing with it. I like it. I like it. Is it allegiance locked or anything, or it's just
nope? So that's the other thing I was doing, like kind of thinking to the future, like Maggotkin. There's no allegiance locking.
Right.
So I designed all of these with that in mind. You know, just like, okay, we're just gonna take allegiance locking, yeet it in the trash. It was always a dumb thing. That was kind of cool when you first like, oh my god, you get an allegiance, you can pick a glade or whatever, and you have all this stuff picked out for you. And then you think about it, and it's like, oh, I pick an allegiance, and everything's picked out for me.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things that at first it feels like kind of cool.
Yeah.
But you start spinning too many plates. Like I'm already trying to make a significant and important choice with the sub-allegiance to like help me gravitate towards a particular play style or like a model range I want to run with. Like you don't need to also make things prohibitive in the sense of artifacts as well. I think that tracks. I could make a case for why you would, which has to do with identity. I'm like a big fan of like giving things identity and a theme. But you shouldn't be making things prohibitive. You should be making things like expansive and engaging.
Yeah.
You know, you want to be positive, not negative in terms of these layers that you're adding to your game.
Just locking everything just makes your list almost feel samey if you're going with the same type of
right.
Like if I could build a couple of different Gnaw roots, but they all do the same thing.
Yeah, my Gnaw root looks like everybody else's Gnaw root on the planet. And
yeah,
that starts to feel kind of.
It removes choice.
Yeah,
and like,
right on.
It's cool when you think about it at first, but when you really think about it, it just boils down to okay, cool. I don't make a decision here.
Aaron, any Cliff's notes on Sigil's artifact?
I think it's cool.
10 out of 10, no notes.
I like it. I'd play it. I think tree revs are cool, and I'd love to see a way to see more of them on the table that are not just packs of 5 teleporting around.
Right on. DK Ratesberg, to answer your question, there were a bunch of sourpusses out there that liked that shit because they think that like this game should be like prohibitive and punishing to other people because at some point in time someone slapped their ice cream cone out of their hand and it hit the sidewalk and now they don't want anyone to have ice cream, and those people are bummers. They're huge bummers and we don't stand them. um, Aaron, what's your first artifact?
Well, I'm gonna go with kind of what I think is probably my least creative one to start.
Okay, I like it. Ramp it up. Yeah, good
and
understanding of narrative mechanics.
Ramp it up. So I took an artifact that I've wanted to play, and I wanted to at least try in the Sylvaneth book, and I made it more feel, I guess, maybe like Sylvaneth in a way. So in the book we have a thing called the Darkest Bow, which is you put on an artifact, or you put on a weapon. If they get an unmodified 6 to wound, it's D3 mortal wounds in addition. I wanted to flip that and say you pick a bear weapon, you pick one of the bear's melee weapons. If the unmodified wound roll for an attack made with that weapon is 6, after all of the bearer's attacks have been resolved, pick one friendly unit wholly within 12 inches. If it has the Sylvaneth keyword, that unit heals D3 wounds. Otherwise, that unit heals 1 wound.
Are there things in the Sylvaneth book without the Sylvaneth keyword, or is this more thinking like you've got allies you bring in and like so it's going to be useful?
I'm thinking allies.
Okay. I like it.
As just a way to, because the book, to me, there's some allies that you can take that can do well, and this is just a small little way to kind of give them a buff because you can't really heal them with any of your stuff because it's all Sylvaneth keyword locked. So it's just a little bit, just 1 wound. But it's a way for something to be more self-sufficient in combat.
Yeah, I like it. I like the there's some contention around like allies, coalition, soup, and so on and so forth. But I do think the basic 1 and 4 allyship and having a sort of anticipated list of allies and you don't need to make things more prohibitive than that. They I don't understand why Games Workshop makes things prohibitive for like what you can even bring as allies in the first place. And then they further gate stuff off, basically saying you'll never take these things. So, like, you set the rules early on saying what people can't take. So why do you have to be more exclusive than that? So I kind of like that. I like where you go.
I see a kitty. I am happy. Mine are out.
Oh yeah, cat cam.
Yep.
Engaged.
Crump cam.
Yeah, crump cam.
That was my first ones. Like it kind of basic, but it's something that I would definitely try. Like especially on a Durthu, make him a little bit more self-sufficient in combat.
Right on.
So, I had something that was a trait that because I just went through the new books and just like kind of copied them basically. Like I saw their format and was like, okay, sure. Enhancements, traits are enhancements technically. Right. So I spelled lore, so I just wrote some notes. But I had one that was really close to that. It's basically the reverse of that, where every time the owner of the trait gets hit on a 5-up, they heal everything near them for the damage they deal or the damage they receive. So 3 wounds get through on a 5-up, it heals 3 wounds to everyone near.
Oh, is that like a once per phase then, or is it open ended where you could just like?
No, it's just cool. You deal 12 wounds to that thing and kill it. You roll 12 dice and that's how many heals you get.
Does the thing die and like it heals?
Yeah,
everybody
else? The thing dies.
Oh, okay.
No, it's called the Lamenter of Garan. So yeah, as she gets hurt, everyone else heals.
I like that.
Basically,
I actually like that.
I feel like it's Sylvaneth.
Yeah, the counterplay's still there. Like you kill like snipe the tree or whatever. Like the Durthu explodes and then like.
Or you just kill everything else. And
right.
ignore
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. There's counterplay there. Yeah. I mean the opponent's gonna have to think. Am I killing the gas or killing the engine? Right. Like they're. So no, I like that. I guess I would ask, what are your notes on his artifact? But.
Yeah.
You had a trait.
I kind of beat you to the punch. I like it a lot.
Yeah,
I do like it a lot. It's and I wish there was more healing in Sylvaneth. Like.
Yeah, that's the one that I've got that does healing. The other ones are a little weird.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Yeah, your hero is a pinata. I love that. No, I was trying to contextualize it, kind of keep up, and
we have one. It's called Alarielle.
Oh, speaking of Alarielle, I have that's a good segue to another one of
Yeah,
my
so Jill, what's your
artifacts.
next artifact?
Right.
So the Sapling Blade, it's basically Alarielle's spell, but in melee form. So pick a weapon. Every time it destroys a unit, wipes it out completely, you can create a tree. Effectively.
Yes, please. I want
Yeah.
that. Yes, publish
Yeah.
that right now, GW. I want it, please.
Yeah.
Do you have any flavor text for that one?
Yeah.
Hit me with the
New
flavor text.
growth is best nurtured by blood. That's it.
Succinct. I love it.
Yeah.
Aaron, what's your next artifact?
Let's go with the. I've got one. It's called the Bramble Speaker. So this is a play on
It's a ghetto
how.
blaster. Like they hold it on their shoulder. Like.
Sure, we'll go with that. Why not? Um, this is kind of an homage to how Sylvaneth were in 1.0. A little bit. So I put the wording may be a little off, but I tried to get it as close as I could. So visibility between two models is blocked if a straight line drawn between the closest point of the two models passes across any wildwoods within 12 of the bearer. Visibility from friendly units with the Sylvaneth keyword is not blocked by wildwoods within 12 inches of the bearer.
So
The idea is it puts a more line of blocking restriction that's currently in place. So and that's wildwoods, which include our awakened ones and generic ones that are on the table, because I feel like we should be able to manipulate those to our desire. So the current line of sight blocking rules are, if it's 3 inches through a woods, it's blocked unless it's 10 or more wounds. This is essentially making all of the woods within 12 of the bear almost like a prismatic palisade that you can see through.
So
go ahead.
Go ahead. Sylvaneth Predator Vision, nice, says Ulf. So you're basically sort of like doing a little bit of the Spore Blast Fanatics or whatever it is.
Spore Splatter Fanatics.
Yeah, Spore Splatter. A little bit of the Spore Splatter Fanatic thing with the artifact. So there's like the language gets hammered out by the developers or a second pass through the editing here. But basically you're kind of creating a line of sight blocking, just reactivating some extra utility for the trees, essentially.
Yeah, it true line of sight blocking even to our big guys. So even Alarielle and our Tree Lord Ancients and Durthu, if thought they try to shoot through the woods, they can't if the bearer is by them.
It's funny because I feel this artifact is one of those ones that would be contentious depending on how good shooting is or not.
I know.
Like,
yep.
It's but that's where like playtesting would come in. Like that's where you add in the 10 wound language at the ear. Like, oh, maybe it is a little too strong to block Alarielle, so you put the 10 wound thing back on it or whatever. But yeah, like I like where your head's at. Sujiel, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I like being able to make the trees more, for one, because one thing that I noticed with that, so we can set up one singular wildwood model, doesn't block line of sight. So that would be able just to turn those on. So I really like that. I love the idea of like being able just to like flick a switch effectively and make something that was, this thing, it doesn't do much. And now it does.
I like the utility you're unlocking, really. I mean, it's putting you in a space where you're interacting with like this aspect of your army that you're not like usually interacting with in that manner. And I think that's really cool. Like, go ahead.
Yeah, that was kind of sorry, I didn't cut you off. That was kind of my goal, is that I wanted the line of sight blocking to actually feel useful to an extent in this army when we have so many models that it's useless again. It doesn't do anything for.
Yeah,
so this was a pure utility piece.
Right on. Sujiel, what's your next artifact?
Waters of Spite. Don't have any flavor text for this one, but it gives once per game you can activate it to give Spite Revenants a 5-up field or ward save, just across the board. I'm like, yeah.
Aaron, sounds like you got a thought there.
Oh no, they need it. You get them in the combat, and you could try to do their battle shock shenanigans, but then they just die.
Yeah.
Because they're five up save, 1 wound apiece, 5
Yeah.
models.
And it's like, I feel like a 5 up ward is like, it's not great, but it's something. And then it's once per game, which, let's face it, you kind of only need them to work for once per game. I feel like you only need them to survive that one turn to do what they're trying to do. So, yeah, I feel like that
as your
works.
lead developer, I erase all once per games unless they're like super potent. So I would.
I feel like a 5 up save is a board wide.
Oh, it's board wide. Like I thought you said.
It's board wide.
Okay.
Any spite on the entire board gets a 5+ save.
Okay.
Any spite revenant.
Yeah, no, that's powerful enough. I'll allow it.
You would only want to take it if you're going into spites, obviously, but. Sure.
Unbelievable. Thank you so much for the follow there. That's a crit. DK saying letting Alarielle mitigate mortal wounds near a wood would be chef's kiss. That's actually pretty cool too. Yeah.
That should just be something that should just be in the book. Like if you're near a woods, you have a ward. Period. End of story.
Yeah.
So I want, on that note, Aaron, I want your thoughts on this especially.
Sure.
Okay. Awakened Wildwood traits. You pick one, and every way Awakened Wildwood gets it. I came up with 3.
You have a list that you can pick one.
3.
Ooh.
Yep. +1 to casting, a 6+ ward, or the wood can move 6 inches.
What would be the timing on the wood movement?
A hero phase, probably.
Just a hero phase.
Yep. Or movement phase. I'm not sure, but
something like they can move.
I think all the woods can move around and reposition.
I think that would be actually really cool, because there's especially like almost like the precedence with how Tree Song used to be.
Yeah.
And actually be able to be useful with instead of moving a big ass pie plate around a little bit, actually move a single tree. I think that'd be cool. And there's a little combo with that with the Vengeful Skull Root too. Move a tree into range and then hit him with the Skull Root.
Yeah.
I'd like that. Absolutely.
So, yeah. Your army would have to pick one of those before the battle is begun. So
yeah. I like that, and I could even see a command trait where you get to pick it for your general. You could pick a second.
Yeah, and it only affects your yeah, or something of that nature. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like it. Absolutely. I think that's really cool.
When I had that idea, I was like, oh, GW, do it.
See, that's
you won't, cowards.
That's the monstrous the microphone from the corn Great Enhancing moment. I think this is the kind of design space that like people who are passionate about an army will go into. That people who are just like robotically going through and like, well, you got to have a you got to have a rerolling ones to hit artifact. You got to have a rend artifact. Like, and they just kind of methodically go through and do it. This is why you want someone passionate. That why you want that like person who is an absolute propagandist for their army. Like
Kool-Aid man.
They're the Kool-Aid man. This is the colloquialism going forward. This is it. Thank you for that, Aaron.
Who is your Kool-Aid man?
Yeah,
Find him.
You want your Kool-Aid man for your army. This is brilliant. I like. This is so unique. It's so Sylvaneth too. Right? Like it's so perfectly Sylvaneth. It makes sense. You get your as DK said here, you get your fighter woods, your cleric woods, your barbarian woods.
The Berg just
tree stances.
The trait would allow you to change the stance mid-game. That's what the trait would allow you to do.
You could, you stance, your tree stance.
Yeah, that's what the commander could do.
I could see something like that that's tied to the seasons.
Yeah.
So there's one for each season.
Yeah.
You get to pick a season.
Don't even.
And then
season. Yeah, no singing and songs like songs of the season. Yeah, but that wasn't the assignment. If that was the assignment, oh baby.
Well,
I got content for you.
My Sylvaneth are all autumn, autumn birch, yellows, whites, yellows, oranges, reds, and whites.
Yeah.
SJ saying maybe make the move trees on the board trait a CA where you have to spend it. Yeah, like like this again. This is like the design space is great. This is where we want to be. The dev space is where you go in and like, okay, well now let's make it fair and balanced, right? Like
Yeah.
this is where you're like, for me, some of my design philosophies coming through. Like when you look at like especially like some of the D&D feats or some of the homebrew I've done in time or some of my own like little excursions into trying to like develop my own little games. You're allowed to break the rules if you spend a resource. Is like a basic core philosophy of design, I believe, because you have like the general rules of your game. You know, this is what a Ren buff looks like. This is what a reroll buff looks like. This is what a run and charge looks like. You know like these are the things that are pretty like pretty on the surface. Most people like look at it and there's no disconnect between what's happening and what we've grown to expect within the rules and the inbounds of the game. When you spend a resource, then you get to go out of bounds. This is where you get your double activates when you know. And resource doesn't always just mean a command ability. Opportunity cost, using a trait or an enhancement to get the thing. That's spending a resource. It's in the list building phase of resources, but that's spending a resource, right?
I have an idea on that for moving the wood. So SJ, the Sylvaneth did have a spell in the old book where you could actually Tree Song used to be able to move a woods. So we could do that. So, but I want to take that and maybe go a little bit further instead of making it just like a command trait. How about you make that a thing that the Tree Lord Ancient can do, and instead of casting a spell, being able to pick 8 woods within 1824 and move them.
Yeah.
As one of their abilities, because
you've because everyone's talked about like, well, Tree Lord Ancients. These are the ones that like people are looking for it to have a role in the army, and they just kind of they're not a double caster, which always feels bad. Like there's just this is a unit that has traditionally been sort of a nerve point for Sylvaneth players from my outsider perspective, my observations here. And one of the big suggestions was like just making Tree Lord Ancients Awakened Wildwoods was one of the big suggestions to make this. I like this way better. I like this way better. So we still have trees that have like seasons or tree traits or whatever. Like you still have that, and because choice is fun, you still choose what to do with your army there at the when you're creating your army or at the beginning of the battle or whatever. You pick a stance, and then the Tree Lord Ancients are the things that get to move woods around. Right? They spend a command ability and they can move trees. That's their command ability. That gives them a role in the list building. The opponent who's about like I can already hear people complaining about trees that move, and I'm telling them remember fun. Like I'm already like I have Haywo on a tape recorder just like remember fun, and I carry it around with me and I just like play it in their ear on max volume when they're about to complain about trees moving. But once I've played the remember fun and they double down, then I would tell them like then just shoot the Tree Lord Ancient. Like get good. So I will do two things that make them angry because they're wrong.
I'll just tell them to just get off my lawn.
Right.
Damn crazy kids.
Yeah. Command ability: spend assign 1 woods to a mysterious terrain trait, your choice, to your next hero phase. I don't want to. I don't want to do the what they did with KO. I don't like that design space like so much. The triumphs. I mean, it doesn't. It's a lot different now. But where they're telling you to like, hey, you've got your book. Like, how about you? This book says go do a thing elsewhere, and then like now you need to look at that other book, and like it says go. I like to keep the stuff contained within the. Yeah. That's me.
It's also, it also kind of takes away in a weird way. I feel like because it's like, oh, I get to do the thing that everyone else does but forgets about. Like. I get to do a thing that everyone else can also do, but I can do it more. I get like, I don't know. I want my thing to be unique and in the rules. I don't want to be doing some generic, like if they made Sylvaneth, you can do the heal heroic action more than once. It would be like,
Yeah.
But if you gave me, you can do this heroic action called Verdant Harmony or Verdant whatever, and it's the exact same printing as the heal one, but it's in my book. Something about that just feels better.
Yeah.
Like, because like, oh, it's mine.
Because that precedence has been set with the OCR book, with the OCR
Mm.
update in
Yeah,
White Dwarf.
we got our own look, get us to circle back to Ossiarch Bone Reapers.
Yep.
It was inevitable. Death is inevitable.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, they printed one that's just the same thing. I wish they would have printed redeploy for us, because that's really like what every Ossiarch Bone Reapers player is talking around when they say they're not playing 3.0. They're saying they don't have redeploy. I mean, we're talking around it because we have to, we have to like tread lightly, because people just hate OBR inordinately for no reason. Actually, I know the exact reason, but I'm not going to get into it.
I'll drink
People
to
like
that.
the well was poisoned very early on Ossiarch Bone
Yep.
Reapers, and we just never recovered. It didn't matter what
was.
it didn't matter. It didn't matter what that army was going to do. The well was poisoned, like at one rule teaser. So, redeploy with my Blood Slick is so good. Well, I mean, it's unlocked an entirely different way to play the game for everybody. Like,
Yeah.
it's just that impactful. It wins games. It changes the dynamic of strategy on the table. And as the army that's supposed to be the biggest brain strategists in the realms, or contesting for like, the top 2 spots of the biggest brain tacticians, like you could say Tzeentch, but Tzeentch isn't necessarily like the not a tactician, more of Machiavellian schemes, right? Unknowable plans and randomness is good, and like Tzeentch isn't like they're the best tactician. And Khorne should be a god of war with the tactical insights of a god of war, but that doesn't always come through in the lore so much as wanton murder and violence. All bloodshed is good, so like the tactical aspect of it is muted. Like Catacross is the just as planned Creed. What was this? Cassaro Creed from Warhammer 40k. I don't remember. I don't know 40k well, but I just know the memes.
40k exists.
I just know the meme of.
It's there.
I know the meme of like Tzeentch playing chess with like this like stogie smoking like imperialist with his arms crossed, flipping the table, shouting "Creed!" like because he's just like getting beat by the tactical genius was the name of the rule on the War Scroll. It was tactical genius. It was what the text said.
So what I wish OBR had was a redeploy, but they have to finish that redeploy with the same wording as the Lumineth Shining Company.
Like you don't need to do that because the way we issue our command points. Sarkar E Creed. Thank you, CJ. I knew Checking would have my back. Checking always has my back. Yusakar E Creed. He's the tactical genius, and he's outmaneuvered Tzeentch in battle plans and stuff. It's actually a really funny like meme set. They're in the old TG days. They already have that. This is why like Ossiarch Bone Reapers is simultaneously like a really well designed book, and yet it had such glaring gaps that like when the book came out, like all the Ossiarch Bone Reaper stands and people who hadn't drank the poison water yet were like, no, like this is like Petrifex Elite is a high watermark, but like because everyone's focusing on this, they're not recognizing some of these like other problems that like need to be tightened up to make this like truly a great book, because there's some really intelligent design in there. One of them is in how we issue our command points. Now everybody's got it, but with our Hekatos rule, everything has to be wholly within 6 inches of the Hekatos already. You don't need to fuck with our coherency more. We're already forced to be tight in our coherency.
Okay.
We have it like we got an app for that. They solved like all these problems people had with like daisy chaining skeletons and like any like it really does have some very intelligent design to it. Again, like the Hekatos rule is way better than the Shining Company rule. The Shining Company should have the Hekatos rule. It's way better and less finicky. Two touching fuck, get the fuck out of here with that. Like don't ever have me like doing stupid shit where I'm like, no, that base isn't touching, and like you fucking sneeze or like you
hair off and you hurt.
Yeah, like lose an entire buff. Like fuck that finicky shit.
Yeah.
The Hekatos rule is to have our death
Hekatos rule.
To have
I
our,
have no
our
idea.
death save, like things need to be wholly within 6 inches of our unit commander, basically.
Of
And
the
to issue
leader, gotcha.
and to
Okay.
issue our command abilities, we need to have things wholly within 6 inches of our command guy. So like you can issue your
Gotcha.
command abilities from heroes and stuff in the hero ways, but the Ossiarch Bone Reapers to like issue our command abilities off of our unit war scrolls. So like the
Mhm.
shield tilt for Mortek Guard, for
Mm,
instance, they must be wholly
okay.
within 6 inches of the Hekatos.
Interesting.
Yeah, you still get the tighter formations, but there's more bend there. It's more forgiving. It plays
Yeah.
cleaner. It plays nicer. Instead of looking at every finicky 2 basis or every base and measuring base to base, and sometimes there's a gap because you drank your beer and you set it down, and like
Yeah.
it's 2 turns later. Oh, I don't know if you were in coherency there. No, we just go one model, boom, 6 inches. Yep, we're good. Like
Yeah.
so much
That's
cleaner.
how War Machine did it, and it was super clean.
It's so clean.
Yeah.
The solution to like again, but nobody paid much. You either played Ossiarch Bone Reapers or you had the well poison against them, and so nobody was really paying attention to those like the more intricate aspects of the design in the book.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just a great rule. It's a great rule. It's also why like if you're able to hero snipe, you like we had a couple more chinks in our armor than people realized, but nobody like, oh, this army's just OP, so I'm going to turn off my brain and complain until it gets nerfed. Congratulations, you got what you wanted. 10% of the entire meta had to shelve their fucking army for a whole edition now. Congratulations, assholes. Whoo! Rare form meth. There we go. How's that for a fucking rant for you guys? Hope you drank your milk for that one. No, yeah, no. So, heck, yeah, I don't know. We had, bleh, we solved that. Where were we?
We were kind of talking
Um.
about woods.
Yeah, you brought
Or
up your artifact, and I brought up trees. I want to
Yeah,
say
yeah,
tree
yeah,
traits as a thing. Yeah.
yep. And this is actually kind of a decent segue into one of my other artifacts.
Sure.
Because we've talked about trying to make a tree lord as in Awakened Wildwoods, and I created one called Soul of the Forest. Um, typically this would go on a tree lord or Durthu.
Mhm.
But I went. The bearer is also an Awakened Wildwood, but loses the Spirit Path's ability and cannot use the Navigate Realm Rude's Allegiance ability. When this model is slain, do not remove its model from the battlefield. It remains on the battlefield as an Awakened Wildwood. If the Smash to Rubble Monsters action is successfully used on this terrain feature, remove this model from the battlefield.
I like that. I like that a
So,
lot.
so the idea with some of the restrictions is that if you have Tree Lords or Ancients as Awakened Wildwoods, you could daisy chain teleports, and that's just bad. So removing its Spirit Path's ability on its War Scroll, which is if it's within 6 of a woods, it can teleport, or the Navigate Realm Routes, if it's wholly within 6 of a woods, it can teleport. Take away that restriction so it just can't do that. It's just another mobile woods
Mm.
that stays when it's dead.
I like
You
that.
you could remove that combo by making it at the end of the movement phase.
Okay.
By just adding that text, so instead of a normal move at the end of the movement phase, it can use its Spirit Path's ability.
Okay.
Or
I
something
think
like that. But yeah, I do agree that cannot be a thing.
no,
That
no.
cannot
I
be a
I
thing.
do not want daisy chaining teleports.
Yeah.
That's just bad wrong fun for everybody
Mhm.
involved. But I've always wanted to do something like that, and I had thought about making the damage on it almost always happen because the spites are angry that you slayed an ancient being. But I wanted to
Mhm.
keep it just like this. Like it's a woods.
Yeah.
I like the implication for like the narrative and the fluff of it. So this is for me like when there's a harmony between like what the rule says, what the rule does, and and how it reinforces the narrative and the like play style of the army. So you're reinforcing your play style, and then you're also reinforcing a narrative. Like the tree's pissed now because you killed one of their ancient trees. Like it's so it turns on an ability. It's why I like with the new Fire Slayers hero. Like I'm like I see where you're at with it. It just doesn't go far enough, like where I'm like you're kind of going for like this ceremonial rites, like berserking, like as Fire Slayers die, the other Fire Slayers getting madder and they're berserking more. I'm like, I like that. That's sensical for like the Slayer's army to me. It's just like the payoff doesn't feel huge enough to be like a berserker rage.
It would need to be that, but triggering on the death, like always, not with this weird charge up and then dump mechanic. Like
like I don't mind the ramp. It's just like the payoff should be bigger.
Well,
like a double active, like a huge, like a big double activate with like bonus attacks. Like just it needs to be big. Like charging out of sync is awesome, So, but if it were like charge and attack, like it was like Wave of Terror, from Nighthawk. Oh, like that says berserker, right? Like, like so.
I could take mine a little bit further. So one of the other ideas I had to add on to this was that you get to, upon the bearer's death, you immediately trigger the vengeful forest spirits.
Oh.
And it always happens on a 4+ no matter what. But it's a 3-inch radius instead of 1. But I thought that was maybe a little too much. But then again, one of my other artifacts is kind of wordy, so my other artifact. But that's my third. That's my third.
We'll get to it here real quick. B-Dubs 83 gifting a tier 1 sub. Thank you so much for that. I like that. Why not still navigate the realm routes? SDK. I think you kind of.
I think we touched.
I think you got to that.
We want, like, it would be awesome, but you would have to restrict that you can't just daisy chain teleport from a woods, then teleport to a tree lord, and then teleport to a tree lord, and then teleport all the way. Yeah, no.
Yeah, well, like I mean, Sigil had the like sort of like a very succinct way of like of killing that with the end of.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but yeah, if there was some language to stop that shenanigans, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Putting on your see, that's where the dev hat came on, and you like.
Thank you.
See, this is
what you were picking up what I was putting down.
Yeah.
This is what the designer dev pipeline's supposed to look like, by the way.
Rapid iteration.
You have someone in the design mode, and then you have a dev as like sort of the throttle on that, and you go through that. And theoretically, it should be, I want the design side to be the most passionate individual on the planet for their thing, and then I want the developer to be an unfeeling, uncaring robot who just takes the passion and brings it in line, but respects the game. They're a patrician. They see the heart. I think I'm caught up on chat here. Sigil, I feel like you kind of already got your input on the artifact in there. Yeah. What's your next one?
Okay, let me do. I will do this one. Yeah. Circlet of Luma. Whoever wears this circlet can call on the Luma Spites, who will give their short lives to protect the bearer and their allies should the need arise. So, simple artifact. +1 ward to the bearer. So they gain a 6+ ward. However, once per battle, they can discard that ward for the rest of the game to give all allies within 12 inches that 6+ ward. So it's simple. It's not too extreme.
I don't even think you need to discard the artifact. I don't mind that a 6+ has another thing, because a 6+ is nearly nothing, even if the once per game is a bubble.
That's fair.
I think it's fine.
Artist has that on his war scroll, and it's a 5+.
Yeah.
Who does?
Artist Steel Soul and Stormcast.
Yeah. Like I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah.
It's fine. It can just.
But I like it. I think it's cool.
It's like the Luna Moth thing, and they die fast, so you're like, hey.
Did you have some flavor text on that one?
Yeah, I read it at the start.
Oh,
whoever wears the circlet, yeah.
ADHD meds wearing off.
Apparently. No, you're good. We were going rapid fire there, so.
Let's see. G-Dad heading to bed, dropping 1,000 RDPs, saying I'll have to catch the VOD tomorrow, and reminding everyone chat gang ain't nothing to mess with. SJ says I'd be happy to see it as a 5+. Yeah, this is where like the playtesting tells you what that number should be.
Yeah, maybe a 5+, and
then you give a 6+ to a bubble, like 5+ on the bearer, give a 6+ in a bubble once per game. I think that could be that's pretty in bounds.
But I think then it would have to go away forever. I think because like or
I mean,
it
that's
depends. It
that's where the
depends.
playtesting comes in. That's
Yeah,
that's
Yeah.
why
it
we have
depends.
that's why you have the
Yeah.
quality assurance. Like, so I would dial it to the best version we have, which is the 5-up,
Yeah.
gives a 6-up bubble, right? And
Yeah.
then we see is this too much? Is this too
Yeah.
powerful? Okay, well then it goes away
It's
for the
like-
rest of the game. You know, like, and that's
Yeah.
the kind of.
If
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, if there was some way that Sylvaneth could get a ward, like just a flat ward, if they were near their woods, I was kind of designing that in that space. So if you, with the tree trait, you can just pick that. Okay, if I'm near a tree, I have a 6+ ward.
Mhm.
So this would give me a 5+ ward, and then I could pop it and give everyone within 12 a 5+.
Yeah, you
ward
find
if they're
yourself
near
you're
the
fighting
tree.
off of trees because you're needing to assault an objective. It's
Yeah.
got play in it. Again, if people don't want you to do that on the jump turn, they know that you're gonna be assaulting away from your trees. They can try to
Yeah.
pump some extra firepower to killing a hero with just a 5-up ward. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
the once per games. I don't blanket hate once per games the way some other people
Mhm.
do. I just think they're often miswritten. They're not written well
Yeah.
usually.
No,
They're usually like
they're
a
not.
once per game and then roll a die. I'm like, why the fuck am I rolling a
Yeah.
die on a once per game?
Yeah, no, the ones that
Yes.
are, yeah, like the brass orb or whatever. It's like once per game, you can roll a dice, and if it's a 6, a model is slain. Cool.
Yeah, yeah. I used an
dang.
artifact for this.
You
And
have a
then
quick-
Soren.
Actually, quick
I'll let
sense.
you get
Oh.
to it in a second, Aaron.
Yeah,
W.
sorry.
Soren dropping a tier 3 sub for 29 years, saying, "I love what you do. You are awesome." I love you too, Soren. You're sorry to hear about the rough patch, but we'll get through this, man. Sorry. So Aaron, your input. Sorry, cut you off.
So Jill, did you say that was a like +1 to ward, or just like the bearer gets
Plus-
like a?
Yeah, I
So-
phrase it as a +1 to ward. So
Okay,
you know,
that would be interesting on a war song, giving it a 3+
Yeah.
ward.
yeah, Yeah.
Ow. And then that's pretty spicy.
yeah. It's very spicy. Now, once again, you might need to reword some stuff. You know, like put a cap on that, but
Sure.
but yeah.
Oh, I like it. I like how you were building it into how woods could be for us.
Yeah.
And being able to fight around our woods, which is something that we want to try to do anyway.
Yeah.
And just make that a little bit more deadly, which
Yeah.
is kind of needed, I think.
DK with a really poignant observation. Wouldn't necessarily need a spell portal in that case anymore. Like, which is neat because you're making the book more self-contained, which is like the other stuff should be like layers. You know, like the stuff that you pull outside your book should just be like layers you're adding on. Like, you know, like
Mhm.
fun little spice and seasoning. But the book itself, every book in existence should be like a self-contained meal. Just delicious and wonderful. But yeah, I'll have some dessert. I'll add this other stuff to it. But I as a design philosophy, I think books should be like, you know, they should have all the juice, all the stuff. They should, you know, have harmony within themselves. I'm more concerned with them having harmony within themselves than playing nice with other stuff. You can limit other stuff, so you don't get to play with that other shit. That's fine. The internal like sort of balance of a book, the internal mechanisms and how they play together. That's the shit I care the most about. External parity is just a throttle we fuck with. And if you make every book awesome and self-contained and the best it can possibly be, and all books are that way, then like congratulations, you've fixed the game.
Use the restroom real quick.
All right.
So give me a second. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Other ways in which people are wrong about Ossiarch Bone Reapers.
Okay, wait. So I have thoughts and feelings on OCR.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
So I loved. Is it Ivory Coast?
Ivory
is
Host.
that-
Yeah.
Yeah, Ivory Coast. Okay, yeah. So when OCR dropped, like, I was like, I read because they did like their thing of like, here's the different things, and we're gonna show you the lore and like one rule. And I think that's the one where they showed the Petrifex one, and that.
No,
caused
it was
everyone to-
crematorians. Crematorians was the one that
Okay.
triggered the well poisoning
Oh.
initially, which was
Gotcha,
like
okay.
the most hilarious thing. is like the NPE of the crematorians rule is so overpowered, and like so people were primed to hate that army. And then when
Gotcha.
it came out, like, because people like it was like me and Brennan are like actually we're like Petrifex Elite is like clearly the strongest. But people were just like seeing red at that, and then the minute when the book came out, they took all that this army's NPE, and they just migrated it onto the next thing to hate about it. That's it was such a
Gotcha.
like the well poisoning was so overt and
So
obvious.
early.
Yeah, and it happened it happened with those rules teasers.
See, it's funny because that is exactly how I feel about this Sylvaneth book.
Really?
Because
yeah.
But in the reverse.
Yeah, because the tease came
reverse.
out and people written it like this is trash. I mean, we gotta be careful with this sort of 24-hour get the scoop hot take mentality.
Yeah.
It alters people's perceptions in a way. It's the old adage of like you can get an article wrong and print the retraction later, and no one will remember the retraction. They only remember the initial like wrong headline. It was it was true in legitimate journalism, and what we do, what any talking head in Warhammer does right now is not news journalism.
Yeah.
None of us. I have a background in journalism. I am not a fucking Warhammer journalist. If I were a Warhammer journalist, what I do would look a lot different than a podcast. Like, I would have the only Twitter presence I would have is to advertise the article I just wrote. I wouldn't make hot takes because you're that well poisoning or the manipulation of perceptions that happens. Like, you interrupt people's ability to critically think because we're emotional creatures for the most part. We have feelings about stuff, which is perfectly fine and normal. Have feelings. In fact, I say lean into your emotions. Fucking revel in them, in fact. There's righteous indignation is one of the best emotions you have, and unbridled passion and love of a thing, you should never feel ashamed. It's both sides. Lots of fun. But then you have to have that second tier engagement and interrogation of those things. And with the way Twitter and social media and content creation goes, Chat Gang's a very devoted fan base. I think I've got the best fans in Warhammer, just in terms of like the passion and the stuff. Like people who actually go back and listen to my fucking first episodes, for crying out loud. I can't believe people do that. Like I've like, oh, I just started listening to your show, and like, like once a month I get somebody like, oh, I just started listening to your show, it's great. And I went back and I listened to all these episodes. I'm like, oh God, please don't do that. like I tried to make them evergreen, but then like I listened to my old episodes and I'm like, oh man, this is brutal. But no, it's you almost don't get that second that chance to engage the higher brain function. We're always plugged in. We're always consuming the next bit of content. The opportunities to, and this is broadly, this isn't just Warhammer. This isn't just in Warhammer. This is everywhere. You don't often get an opportunity to have that second breadth and reinterrogate and reevaluate what you already felt or believed, because it's already onto the next outrage bit. It's onto the next thing. Like nobody knew what the Hecatos rule was.
Yeah.
The dominant Petrifex Elite dominated the conversation so loudly that nobody knew what our rules were.
So,
sorry, yeah, and what you said with the reverse.
Are you telling me
Sylvaneth
that I can play Ivory Host now?
No, it's garbage. No.
Damn it.
But no, the reverse is true of Sylvaneth. People wrote that book off. They did the same fucking thing with Fire Slayers at the same time too. And Fire Slayers was outperforming, like, pound for pound Petrifex Elite. Like, everywhere it was played. It's just, it wasn't 10% of the meta, so nobody was paying attention to it, and the talking heads had already told you it was a bad book.
Yeah.
Like 9 people in the world that play Fire Slayers.
Oh, yeah, and they were all in Germany, and every one of them was a holy terror. And I know that because I have massive appeal in Germany. I've got that Hasselhoff factor. I'm huge in the German and the French demographics for some reason.
Yeah.
But no, that happened with Sylvaneth in reverse. People wrote it off. They didn't bother doing a close reading of the book. Nobody was trying to solve it. There were a few people out there. I shouldn't say nobody, but but sort of broadly, and the communal read. And there were a couple people doing well with it, but it just often we just get these, again, that first reading, that knee-jerk reaction, and the luxury of being able to reevaluate what we believe is it's just not in the DNA of the internet these days.
No.
But Meph, I saw half a War Scroll on a Belgian website, so I know for a fact that the Battletome will be trash when it drops in 3 months. Exactly. Or the worst thing to play against, yeah. Thanks for stopping in, Northax. Sorry, I keep cutting you off, though, Suchio. What was your point?
Oh, no, I was going to ask about Ivory Host. That was the whole bit. Like,
okay.
Narratively, that was my thing. They're made from the bones of giant beasts.
Yeah.
And Gothazar harvesters.
Yeah.
More like, and then it was like, oh, why would I ever play this?
You guys read the War Scrolls? No, see, I let my favorite content creator read War Scrolls to me and tell me what I already think I think. Like, I go, like, I think this sucks. And then, like, I just pick the content creator who says it sucks, and then I regurgitate the reasons they said it sucked. Even if it's independent invention, because I had a feeling about it.
But, like, half of them.
Yeah, I had a feeling about it, but I didn't know. Like, I couldn't articulate it. They're just saying what I was already thinking, right?
And now that I heard a 2-hour podcast, I know.
Where was I? Oh, yeah, so you asked about Ivory Host. I actually had, like, all these notes I didn't really get to use on Warhammer Weekly last week when I was on. Because there was one topic when I was invited on, there was, like, one topic that we were going to do, which was, like, fixing Ossiarch Bone Reapers was the topic we were supposed to do. But then when the Tome Celestial came out, like, Vince had to sort of, like, shift gears. So I had all these notes and all these thoughts.
Aww.
And then I had to condense them into this, like, little, like, 20 minutes at the end. Ivory Host, the problem with Ivory Host is it's the only sub-allegiance that punishes you for taking it. It has a penalty to have its ability. And its ability is something that you can get in 3 other ways in the Battletome.
Okay,
which is the +1 to hit or whatever. Like, it's...
Yeah.
They need to...
It baffled me. It baffled me when I saw those rules.
Just when they get damaged, they get +1 attack.
Yeah.
They get Stalkers as battle line. Fucking fixed. Like, the number of people who are going to take Mortex Stalkers heavy, like, lists and in Ivory Host and, like, paint them bone white and awesome is just insane.
Play against that.
Yeah, and everyone would be so happy to see Stalkers on the table, they wouldn't even think to complain that they're getting +1 attack kind of universally.
If you're complaining about that, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah. So there we go. OBR number 2, everybody. Yeah, CJ, you read Roar Scrolls? LRR NP. Toxic bullshit. Nerf OP GW re. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is, like, because you never get to have a measured response to things because everything is either trash, the worst thing ever, or the best thing ever. And there's fucking nothing between, because you don't read a lukewarm tweet or something with nuance. You read the 2 sentences, big prescriptive judgments, and keep scrolling.
Yeah. It's what would you say it is more? Like, it's not journalism.
It's not.
But what would you say it is? Like punditry? Or
I mean, again, this isn't a
commentary?
Warhammer thing. This is a cultural observation. This is
Yeah.
fucking everywhere. Nuance is dead. It goes to, like, social media to fucking die. That's where nuance is just, like, I think it's the binary nature of the internet. Like, we're kind of not allowed to have we're kind of not allowed to have nuanced perspectives. Everyone must pick a side. You know, you're either for something or you're against it. And social media makes it worse, because if I make a post on social media and I say I like this thing, there's a way where you read it. Like, if I say I like Star Wars, then, like, I've said I like Star Wars, and so I'm kind of locked in there in that sort of position. And that invites people to be like, well, I like Star Trek. And it, like, it forces these sort of, like, false dichotomies.
It's then I can say, well, then how do you defend Last Jedi?
Right.
How do you defend XYZ?
Yeah,
Like,
why
here's all the problems with your thing.
Yeah, and like it's like you're putting yourself out there, so like
It's
you're
like, you
opening
didn't
yourself
invite
up to
that.
interrogation, right? Because now
Yeah.
you need to. Now you're right. That means I say the thing, so naturally I say the thing. I must be able to defend the thing that I said, and I must be open to having the thing I said interrogated. So I think that's one
And as
component.
a Sylvaneth player, I have to deal with that every time I go to
Yes.
the local game store.
Yeah, yeah,
Why
and
are you Galaxy Braid stratting your way to when you could play something else?
yeah. Why don't you just take the easy way out? So it's part of that is
Oh,
it.
I'll start Alarielle.
You know, part of it's that. Like I do think like you got to understand like the algorithm is against you too. Like
yeah.
it is outrage is the single most objectively engaging component on the internet. Like hell, McCarthyism in terms of like voting strategies and stuff like that, like fear and anger. Like we know this. Like culturally that like you don't vote unless you're angry. So like keeping people constantly angry and constantly afraid, that locks us in again that initial first blush emotion, which that first blush emotion's fun. It's awesome. Indulge it. But you need to get out of that emotional response and into the second tier of your brain functions. Start interrogating, well, why am I righteously indignant about this thing? Why do I have an unbridled love for it? And sometimes you run those diagnostics and you go, why do I love Nagash so much and think he's the fucking coolest? And then like I run my diagnosis and I go, because I'm absolutely correct. See, like but I have to do that.
We should make a fear campaign around automatic mail-in voting, but reverse it. And say if it doesn't happen, and then we'll just have everyone vote.
Yeah, punditry is a problem. Hot take factory. Like, if you start explaining something, you're already losing. You know, this is part of that's a cultural issue too. You know, it takes us again. It goes back to like in journalism, they paint a erroneous story. Nobody reads the retraction. Or if somebody says something flagrant and stupid, like I just saw one today about someone misconstruing a headline about regular immunity is better than vaccines is like what somebody like what they said posting like a CDC article. And if you read the first paragraph, it's building up a natural immunity, or people that have had COVID and also have the vaccine are the most is the best, basically is what it's saying. It wasn't saying what that person said they were saying, but now that I have to fucking explain to them a paragraph of text telling them that they're wrong, I've already lost them.
Yeah.
Like, it's why trying to explain the Hecatos rule, outplaying the army on the table, blah, 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 when somebody already said that my army was the most NPE thing in the world, like, how do you come, like, I have to explain all these ways. They're like, no, I already know it's NPE. Prove me wrong. And then, like, I'm trying to prove you wrong, but you can't prove people wrong if they don't want to be proven wrong.
I'll also say NP is one of those things that can't really be proven wrong in a lot of ways, because if I have a negative player experience, that you can't prove to me that I didn't.
You can't prove people's feelings wrong.
Yeah.
And everybody has a different take on what NPE is to them.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like, I feel like there is, and like objectively in design, there is NPE.
Yeah,
I agree.
But it's like soft science doesn't mean worse science, everybody. I hate that. Even that, like, people throw around soft science like a way to dismiss soft science. Like, science is a methodology. Like, it is not. like science is a methodology, everybody. Like, it's about the methodology. How do we engage with this thing? We say something as soft science when it's like primarily observational, based on things that we can't like look at through a microscope. We call it a soft science because we have to rely on like user information essentially. And then it becomes a soft science. Doesn't mean
you're looking at qualitative and over quantitative.
Right, qualitative. Right. Yeah, look, big brain coming out of Aaron here. Exactly. So we're like, it's not bad science, but that's how it gets. Anyway, so we have like sort of a soft science approach to NPE. We can get a sort of idea of what people dislike or what NPE is based on sort of like you're gonna poll everybody who plays Warhammer or a sufficient sample size of everyone who plays Warhammer to figure out what NPE is. And even then, they're not going to tell you what it is. They're going to say, I don't like playing against this army, or
Yeah,
I don't
and then
like
from
playing
there you
against
can infer.
that mechanic, and then we can infer what we think from that, right?
Yeah, you can
It's
infer trends, see commonalities between all of them, and be like,
Right.
oh, when I set up and just remove a large chunk, that's an NPE.
Mhm.
Because I think NPE largely boils down to a lack of agency.
player agency. That's what I.
But
And yet there
yeah.
are things out there that disprove that as a hard rule, because there are
Yeah.
some moments where player agency is utterly removed, and people love it even more. Like with the dominate spell in Vince Venturella's like gaming group. Like we could say that's a selection bias, right?
Yeah.
Fucking science is fun, isn't it? Isn't science awesome, everybody?
Science.
Yeah,
Science.
fuck yeah, science. But yeah, so like there's but like there are, like that you can always find exceptions, and I always think that the best route is always education. Just a more educated voter base, a more educated player base, net better for everything, all of society across the board. It doesn't matter what it is.
Someone had a question for
Boom.
Sylvaneth just to pull it back in.
Mr. CPU
On
Busta.
Drycha, what our thoughts are on Drycha. And Aaron, did you want to field that?
Sure. I just played Drycha really for the first time in 3.0 last weekend. And I played a weird Alarielle Super Friends list with Alarielle, Durthu, Drycha, an Ancient, 15 Tree Revs, a Spite Hive, and a Glade Worm in Naru.
I need to
And
write that down. Super friends, but with all the friends.
with all of the friends, yes.
Get Go-Trek and what the Lumineth ones. Oh, I'm doing that. I'm
I'll-
fucking doing that.
I'll send you I'll send you the list later. But I think that Drycha is better now than at the beginning of 3.0 because spending 330 points on 10 wounds did not feel good. But now that she's 315, I actually think that she has a little bit more play. To me, before the points drop, Durthu at 340, Drycha at 330, I would almost always take Durthu over that. There's no reason for me to take Drycha. At 315 to 325, I think that Drycha does come back into play a little bit, but you really got to play with Naru for the reroll ones to hit, so you could try to spike more of those sixes. When I played her over the weekend, I played against a Slaves to Darkness that had Archaon and Be'lakor. I played against Gargants, and I played against a weird Living City list. And Drycha being a mobile artillery cannon is just awesome. But I think that she's better now at 3.
Yeah.
Just point wise, I think she's a great war scroll. I wish if she was 9 wounds, she'd be better. But I think that I said at her current points, I think is great. I think she's fine.
Yeah.
She has a use.
That's one of those problems across the game right now. Is the 10 wounds is the no zone. It's just you're not like you want to be 11, right? Like it's just not a good. You want to be 9 or 11, right?
You want to be 9 or like 12 plus.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think
she's.
she's.
Often feel bad.
I think I guess before I said you like for me, it's she has a role in the art. I think she has a role, and she's not. This is what I wish a lot of things were. She's not mandatory, and that's what I like. It's like you could take her, you could have a lot of fun, but you're not just going to see her everywhere because she's just overpowered. Stuff like that just needs to. It should be a choice. I think she is a viable choice right now. I think so.
Yeah, I think she's viable. One thing that I'm definitely going to test at some point that I've been like, no one owns spites. That's what I've learned. Well,
I own 30.
Okay. Fair. But
2 of us maybe then.
Yeah. Like I have
you're just
I have a
drinking alone.
decent chunk
The
myself.
2 people who own Spite Revenants are drinking alone at the bar with the 9
Yeah.
Fire Slayers players.
Yep.
But I want to try like just going all in on spites and spites because rerolling ones to wound and hit is big.
Oh,
and
now
you can
especially.
do that with spites.
Easy.
And they have 3 attacks apiece. Sure, they're gonna die, but if I throw 120 at you, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Oh no, you killed 5.
Shucks.
You can only kill
Here's
5
the
at a
best part.
time.
Yeah, that's starting to go with the Ungor Raider strategy at that point. Except
Yeah.
Ungor Raiders
Yeah.
don't kill anything.
No, Spite Revenants kill things. A lot of
That's
things.
what I would. That's what I will just buy boxes of Dryads and bash them to be Spite Revenants because I'm not paying $45 for 5 models for that.
Yeah.
Burning Duarden and Flammable Tree Folk, natural allies, baby. Exactly.
Yeah, I've been scarred for life by my friend who plays Fire Slayers, and he loves to set my woods on fire, and it sucks.
It's a good army. Like I said, it's just
Really is.
it also had a well poisoning with it, and right now it's
Yeah.
in a weird place. But it wouldn't take much to bump it
Also,
up.
model-wise, there's a problem.
Yeah, they all look the. It's like it's all the same.
I think
It's
at
cookie.
this
It's
point,
cookie cutter.
I think at this point though, you got to lean into that. You know, like there's that like I haven't reset this take in a long time. Wow, this is a you probably have to go back 20 or 30 episodes for this take. Treat every episode like it's someone's first, right? There's sometimes there's those things where you say it with two different inflections, and like whether it's bad or good is just the inflection you put into it. So like Fire Slayers all look the same. Fire Slayers all look the same. Fire Slayers all look the same. Like you can be excited about. You just turn that negative into a positive, baby. Like lean into the bilateralis. Lean into
I mean, Space Marine players exist. Like
a lot of them
exist.
A lot of them.
At some point, I think you just lean into the eccentricity of whatever it is. You know, like there was always classic things where like people would insult some of the stuff I like, and I'm like, that's literally why I love it. You know, like that's the exact reason I love it. You know, there are a bad movie falls into that. Like you have that movie that like you love it because it's bad. You know, if Street Fighter the movie was an objectively good movie, I would hate it. I love it because it's so gloriously campy. You know, like fucking Raul Julia is just eating the stage every minute he's on it. You know, just it's so good. So I love this take. I think you just got to at some point you lean into it. You lean into your mohawks. Everybody looks the same, and you have bilateral symmetry, right? Like just lean in, and every time someone insults it, get excited about it. Throw it back in their face and have fun with it. I want to see more Fire Slayers players. You know, I understand they test poorly in the aesthetics, but guess what? Now you've got unique snowflake power. Lean into unique snowflake power. You know, don't feel shame. I hate this, you know, guilty pleasure thing. If your pleasure doesn't hurt anybody, don't feel guilty about it. Love the shit you love, yo. So Fire Slayers players, I'm talking to all 9 of you. Love your army. Love it through and through. And when somebody says that you play naked baby men, say, and it's fucking great. And just like look at this dude's symmetry, and then just look at this physical specimen of a creature who is perfectly symmetrical. Look at the quads. Look at Quadzilla here, who's just he will not be besmirched by pants because then you couldn't see his quads. Like Quadzilla will go to Tokyo and destroy it. Bask in the power of his naked thighs, right? Like just lean into it. So, like it's just that like you say it. The Simpsons is like there's the truth and the truth. You know, it's the two different inflections for So, all right, next artifact up. Sajil, how many you got left? Two by my count?
I think 2.
2 by my count, and Aaron, you've got 1 left?
And I've got 1.
All right, so Sajil, go ahead. What's your next artifact?
Sure, I'll do a boring one. Snare vines. Models within 3 inches of this of the bearer may only pile in 0.5 inches. Simple.
All right.
But just vines wash up, grab you, no piling. Stop it.
Thanks, I hate it.
Thanks, I love it.
Nope.
Give, please.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense.
Absolutely.
Vines. The problem is like there's vine artifacts in Sylvaneth, and they just deal mortal wounds. They don't do anything with movement. There's nothing in Sylvaneth that messes with people's movement.
So,
and that's like baffling
so
tiny.
dev hat for a minute.
Mhm.
I like where your head's at, like what you're trying to do.
Mhm.
But like I feel like one of those like we've sort of a nerve point we found for people is like shutting off pylon. People seem to hate that in the community. We'd have to like we'd run like a
Mhm.
focus group. We'd see if people really do or if they were just like upset about other factors. What about
Mhm.
like a blood slick ground like effect?
Oh, what is that?
Blood slick
Remind me.
ground is what
I
halves
forget what
your
it affects.
charges.
Have runs
House
and charges
charges.
Halves
within
runs and charges.
it's an
Okay.
18
Ugh,
as a command ability.
it's
Yeah.
fucking brutal.
It is.
That's see for me that is so much worse.
Than pylons?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think I 100% agree.
Really?
Yes.
Because think about it, it's not stopping charges. Like I don't know, like maybe I know people have had issues with pylon stuff,
Uh-huh.
but I think it was more in the oppressiveness of other stuff.
Yeah, being
I think it was
comboed
more
with it. Like,
yeah,
and
I
that's
think
what
it
I'm saying.
was
Like,
taken in concert.
yeah, the easy read is to be like people hate anti-pylons, and the
Yeah.
more nuanced read might be people hate anti-pylons on a whole army or on a
Yeah.
on this
I
type
think
of.
it I think it being on one hero like
Mhm.
so I'm trying to remember like what was the big one that was that the like anti-pylon where was it just
It was
I
Slaanesh.
know
People were
rat
complaining specifically about
okay
Slaanesh as an army
right
mechanic.
right that was
They
I
had they
Go
had
ahead.
anti-pilot? They
they
had
did
anti-pilot.
Yeah, their
yeah
locus
they
of
did
diversion got shifted to anti-pylon, and
yeah
people like
Oh,
got
okay.
mad. Or
Okay.
yeah
not diversion, locus of lethargy. I don't remember.
Because
yeah something
the only one I know of is just with the sharks, the net. If it hits on a 3, then that unit can't pile
mm,
in.
That's fine.
But that's
yeah
I like that's a 3-up.
Yeah, it's
Like,
yeah
a
I
three
think
up. You're doing it like you have to hit. Like there's so many like
mhm,
hoops you got to jump through to trigger it. See,
yeah
I've always liked like death armies have had like a pick a terrain piece, half things movements within a range of that terrain piece. Like
mm,
death has that. Why don't y'all?
yeah
Like we have
has the army not put terrain in play?
like
To do that?
spectral grasp. Like great. Like I pointed a terrain feature. You have half movement. Like
hmm
huge.
oh actually that's not a bad idea have it be wildwoods
So,
like
Yeah.
but that kind of gets into the kind of
well,
like
no, like no, it can be on the hero. It can be like 18 inch.
yeah
Like
yeah
it could be the anti pylon. It's just the design space is what I'm interested in. Like I
yeah
said,
yeah yeah
you
I
It'd
would
be like a
I
spell.
didn't I didn't
Spell
finish
or
my thought though
yeah,
my
keep
thought
going, keep
was
going. Sorry.
if
Uh,
wildwoods within 18 inches of this model but then it's the wildwoods within 18 inches of this model gain oh wait it would be enemy models within 3 inches of wildwoods within 18 inches of this model can only pile in 0.5 inches
I
and
mean,
that's it's the this then this
well,
then
I mean, you
this
could
then
just have
this
it be
thing
like
that's
pick a friendly wildwood within 18 inches of this model.
yeah
Enemies within 3 inches of that model can't pile in more than 0.5 inches.
yeah
Clean, straight.
yeah
Like
that's much cleaner for sure
it doesn't have to be every wildwood. You're just being
Mhm.
like you point at one, and because you're dictating the pace of combat. You're controlling the battlefield, right? And the
yeah
idea is that you're making a decision. Your opponent's going to have to like have some counterplay in some way.
yeah
Stay away from the wildwoods. Yada yada yada.
Mhm.
Theoretically, you're a big-brained genius gamer, so you've set up the combat that they have to fight to be around your wildwood. So there's only one wildwood you're picking anyway. You know what I'm saying?
yeah
Like it's clean. It's straightforward.
yeah
SJ Arcade asks, can you reread the artifact again?
sure it was just models within 3 inches of the bearer may only pile in 0.5 inches
See, I
half
mean
an
that's pretty clean. If you have 2 inch reach, you're still gonna be,
inch. Yeah
I mean not quite, I suppose. You'd be within 3. Yeah, I mean it's fine. That's where I say open it up to playtest.
yeah
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, Aaron?
I mean, I think it's fine. I would almost want to see that as a way for it to, like I said, affect a wildwoods instead of just being
mm,
around the bear. As the growth around the trees start to sprout out and grab nearby enemies, I think would be a little bit more flavorful.
Yeah.
And be, it's like I think what Mephisto said would be a little bit clearer. It's like, yeah, in the start of the combat phase, you pick a woods that's wholly within 18 or wholly within 24. Enemy models within 3 inches of that woods can only pile in a half inch.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's neat. And it's not just
Yeah.
it's in one focus spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I could see someone taking it as a second artifact. I don't think that would ever be your first pick, but I could see
No.
someone taking it as a second.
Yeah, right on.
It's utility.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I think utility is good.
I like the battlefield control utility aspect of these artifacts. Like, I haven't seen a it's just numbers artifact really. Like, barring like save enhancements, which you just kind of need in the game. Like, you get a +1 to hit. You get +1 attack. You reroll. Like I like that you guys are playing within the utility space. Aaron, what's your next artifact?
I have.
It's a way to add defense without being a ward. Very solid point. Like which is a design space I like exploring too. Instead of just numbers, we're looking at mechanics.
Well, here's maybe one that would. Here's my one that's way kind of out there. It's called Sap of the Ancient Oak. Put this on a Tree Lord or a Deer Through. Once per game during the hero phase, you can have the bearer consume the sap of the Ancient Oak. If it does, the following effects apply to that model for the rest of the game. I'll start with the kind of the negatives. You have the movement characteristic, run rolls, and charge rolls. And then you get +1 save. You double the wounds characteristic. You count as 1 bracket higher, and you count as 10 models for objective control.
When you say bracket higher, you mean wound bracket?
1 brackets, yep. Because I was talking about a way to modify the wound bracket, the bracketing, but it's I think going 1 or 2 steps higher is probably is the cleanest way to do it.
Yeah.
But the idea is that you get to a spot and you use the artifact, and all of a sudden you're just this one big ass tree.
Yeah.
Come at me.
Yeah, I love it. Mega sap.
Yeah.
I love this. I think you saved the best for last here. Tree Lord eats sap. Sap is tree blood. Vampire trees confirmed. Agreed. Yeah, I love it on that basis alone.
You have a 24 wound Tree Lord sitting on an objective with a effective 2-up save, but because it's so big and it has to root into the ground, it can't maneuver as fast. Around.
Yeah. I mean, it might even be funny to remove its move characteristic entirely. It can only charge.
That could be funny, but I thought that just have all of that, have any movement that it does.
Yeah, sensu beans for trees. You become a tree, can't move ever again. Come at me, bro.
Listen, that's my one. That was my bonkers.
I like it. No, I like this. This is a lot. Save the best for last, IMO. So Geel, you've got one artifact to go.
Yep. Shard of Kurnoth. To carry this piece of a fallen god is to become overtaken by the wild hunt.
Based.
Models wholly within 6 inches of the bearer of the artifact may roll 3d6 and 3d6 while charging. I kind of butchered the words a little bit.
They can charge from 18 and roll 3d6 to charge.
Yeah. They must, however, end the charge to the closest enemy model. So no picking. Whatever is closest, they go for that.
See, this is a thematic thing, where because they're overtaken by the hunt. I don't think you need to limit it. They can charge whatever, because they're hunters. Like they might be overtaken with the hunt, but hunters are savvy.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. And I think just to kind of compound on that, if you're charging the closest enemy model and you've already got a model in combat, you have to charge that model. Or where the closest enemy unit would make more sense.
Oh yeah, unit. Sorry, like I said, I butchered the words a little bit and only spotted it right now when I need to read it.
No, that's fair. It's a more restrictive Kragnos ability, but I think is really cool that you could come down out of ambush in the trees, and you could roll 3d6, and that is
Yeah.
I think it is a kind of a weakness with our stuff. Is like if we do the deep strike of the woods, we don't really get any buffs other than going gladeless and go Warsinger.
Yeah.
So I like it. I think it's cool.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
I just roll those 9s. I don't know what your problem is. I
Well,
pull Graveguard
I mean-
out of grave sites outside of 9
I just rolled a
inches.
12,
Yeah,
so
just- Oh, well,
always.
I see you have a
Yeah.
better strategy
I'm
than
really
mine.
good.
Yeah.
I practiced
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, that's what I did when I got a Durthu into an Archeon. I'm like, yeah, just roll 12s, of course. In goes Durthu. By goes Archeon.
I'll never forget. What was it? Hewo's first tournament out in the wilds, like the big GT. Not first tournament. We done some other stuff. But I think the first tournament. No, it wasn't his first. It was he had been to like Acon and some other stuff before that. But it might have been the first time he played trees in a tournament, and it was old trees. And Durthu had, I think he had Gyre Strike.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh.
And he just casinoed him like all sixes, and just full to deaded like old stone skeleton, Stonehorn. It was just it was amazing. And you can't even be mad when somebody jackpots on you like that. Like you can't even be upset.
I miss Gyre Strike.
I miss a lot of those artifacts. I miss there was 10 of them that I wish were still in the game, in one way or another, which is part of the reason we're doing the Great Enhancing, actually. Notes on the charge. I think I kind of talked over you there. I was getting excited. No.
Oh, you got it.
No.
You got
yeah.
mine.
I think we got through.
There's a message that came through. You guys ever run a multi-Durthu army? So, let's say
This is just my painting stuff, so the things I've painted, but no, I haven't run a multiple Durthu army. What are you talking about? You're crazy. Why would anyone have more than one Durthu? What are you talking about?
Is that 3 Durthus so far?
Yep, just on my painting board.
all
I
your
have
fully
3
painted ones. Yeah.
I have 3 fully painted ones.
More, says DK. You can run 4. What's stopping you?
You can. I have.
Somebody say multiple Durthus?
Yeah. Yeah.
Painted. And I have a third that I've got kit bashed.
Fantastic.
That I have to paint.
Thrice-fold Dearthfoulment, yeah.
Thrice-fold? That's no.
Wait.
You go 4 or go home.
Yeah, quad-fold.
This is my Nurgle Tree Lord, so I'm getting there.
Getting there? Fun.
Yep.
No, that's fun. See, so I think that's kind of it for the Great Enhancing. We got through all your traits too as Sigil, kind of as asides as we were going through that.
Yeah, the main thing I wanted to bring up was the idea of wood traits. That was the gold I think I stuck on.
Yeah, swish.
I want that.
Yeah, that's the half-court shot.
Yep.
Just no look half-court. Amazing.
Yeah. My army is autumn. That's the trait. All the woods are the autumn trait. They deal mortal wounds, or they do more mortal wounds.
Yeah.
Or what would autumn be? Probably saves.
Or I could say bonus to charge.
Okay, yeah.
As an homage to Harvest Boon.
Usually, spring is vital and chargy, but
I could. That's fair.
Yeah, I could see that fitting a little better, but yeah, you could see that.
Plus, you got a double entendre there with a spring in your step.
Yeah.
Spring. Yeah.
I was thinking ward because leaves falling to obscure shit,
ward save.
Things more.
Ooh, okay, that's
more
that's
wardy.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about this before. This totally isn't something that I've written down in a notebook.
Winter could be it slows enemy units around as they're trudging through the snow and the mud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then summer, I think, would be magic.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love the idea of traits, and you select a trait. I also love the idea. I know, Sigil, you were on the show before. We were talking about Sylvaneth in general, and you brought up, that was when you brought up your songs and some autumn or seasonal type stuff. I think that's a really cool direction to kind of go with it. At the very least, on little minor things, when anytime you have some options to choose, you can choose based on based on the season, and the seasons have different buffs. So like the Doot creature
Yeah.
like has the songs.
McDudes.
It has 4
Yeah.
Doots. Spring
I just want
heals,
more
summer
songs.
magics, autumn damage, winter defense. Yeah. I
Something
mean,
along those lines, yeah.
yeah, it almost writes itself when you think about
It
it
really
just a little
does.
bit. It feels very logical. It feels like it
Yeah.
should be in there. It's
But GW was smarter, and they figured out the most thing that you think of when you think of Sylvaneth. They're battle shock immune to 1 place of power. That's the most Sylvaneth rule. It's really good. The weird
It's
thing is,
amazing.
it's actually really good. No one remembers it because it's just pick a terrain piece you're battle shock immune near it.
yeah.
And
That
actually,
was was the new rule from this book. Like
yes.
that was the big thing that was new, and it was just like,
Actually, I just had another artifact idea.
Yeah, go ahead.
That is, I mean, it's similar to an endless spell that's already in the game, but would play into a list that a list idea that I'm brewing. That something like this would be great. Um, would be I don't want a name for it because I'm really bad at names, but like enemy units within 12 of the bearer cannot receive commands during the battle shock phase.
mm,
I mean, that's huge.
And
yeah,
to play
for
into
spites.
Drycha and Spites, big
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
And even the Vengeful Skull Root too, because Skull Root, if a unit fails Battle Shock, an extra
yeah,
D3 models leave. If a unit fails Battle Shock near Spite Revenants, an extra D3 models leave.
yeah,
So I think we've got something that's like a -1 bravery nearby, but nothing like that
yeah,
to shut off commands during that.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's why my spite list would run tree lords for the monstrous action or whatever it's called, because
Yeah.
that's.
Yeah, you want the
But
shout.
yeah,
Yeah.
the
Well,
shout.
Roar doesn't do anything for that.
It doesn't.
Roar only shuts up combat phase. It does not shut off Battle Shock.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So so that's why I think it's
Right,
something that
right.
besides Horrorghast. So like the idea I had Horrorghast in it, throw it up the board, shoot a bunch of stuff, things leave. But
Yeah.
have an artifact that could be in the back to help support Spite Revs as if they're able to survive to Battle Shock stuff away.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, really cool stuff. It says DK, like kind of on the same page, says that could be on Drycha, or could be Drycha's ability even.
Yeah.
For clarification.
Yeah.
So just recapping, artifacts, final thoughts on the artifacts, and we can transition a little bit into the final soapbox and get you out of here so you can sleep. Just sort of, Aaron, just sort of your final thoughts on artifacts, summarizing thoughts, like what you would like to see. You are James Workshop for a day, and you get to like direct your dev and design team.
I want utility. This Arby to be is a utility piece. It's like it's a Swiss Arby knife. It could do a lot of different things. Jack of all trades, maybe not necessarily a master at any.
Yeah.
That's I want artifacts that can play into that design space.
Right.
Allow me to do weird and cool things to control the board without it being oppressing like it used to be, with just completely block line of sight. You can't move through. Blah. No, but let me ways to interact with my woods more.
Right. I think what you're saying is you want ways to interact with your woods more, 100%, and you want board control that interacts with the opponent rather
Yes.
than the board state. Because
Yes.
the thing that like kind of sucked to play against trees, I didn't mind that they were a board control army. Board control armies are based AF. That's fun. Like I love the Johnny play styles. I actually also will stand tanky armies. I don't mind tanky armies. I don't think the game should absolutely skew more offensive than defensive because the game state should be progressing. But I don't mind like every 4 armies being a tanky army or what. Like there's some healthy balance of like people who want to like play castles and tank armies, right? Like there's a balance of that. You get a trade off if you're a castle tank army though. You can't like sniper people forever or whatever.
We can do that.
Sure.
We can do that to an extent.
You do it to an extent, right? But the thing that sucked about it was the look at the battle plan. I'm a 1-drop army. And like, yes, you are technically controlling the battlefield because you drop all your trees down, blocking all the line of sight, teleport onto the objectives and say you can't beat me. that was a very non-interactive way of controlling
Yeah.
the game state or the board state. And I think that was where like the kind of I think that Sylvaneth is still being punished a little bit for that because they got gun shy because the army wants to be a board control like army. It wants to be. And they moved
Yeah.
away from it in weird ways, and it just there's been a little bit of that's my read. I don't play the I don't this isn't my army. This is an outsider.
I also feel like that definitely happened strongly, and then the community moved away from that as well. It was like, okay, we can't do that anymore. All in Kurnoth.
Yep.
All in, and then then 3.0 happened, and I think we can do that a little bit more. With Tree Lord Ancient being able to save stack so much, I think we can play that space. It's just right now with dragons and with Tzeentch dominating and with Lumineth dominating with the Mortal Wounds and with the War Clans, the new things, which name is blanking on me, the sneaky orcs.
Cruel Boys.
Cruel Boys, thank you. There's just so much Mortal Wound output that people are, you set up 30 models and 30 models get pulled away. You feel bad about that, and then a lot of people will get discouraged. For me, I do that, and I'm like, cool. That's what they're supposed to do.
How do I deal with this? Yeah.
Well, I mean, cool. They ate 30 shots. Awesome.
Yeah.
Because we're used to Kurnoth Hunters where you lose one model. That is such a huge thing.
Yep.
Oh my god. I lost 30? Well, I'm just not going to take that.
See,
they're worthless.
This is I think people need to play an army that is a tactical army at some point in their a tactical like Losses style army at some point in their AOS career because it gets you used to losing your pieces, and then you start thinking about trading pieces. And once you get into that headspace, you're in a healthier place in the game.
I think about AOS like I think about chess. Like I played a lot of chess, and like so the act of like trading, like of course, yes, trading. If I can trade up in points, that means I win. If I'm always trading up in points, I'm winning.
And that goes back to what you were saying earlier, where like you've had your opponents like where they just thought you were taking them apart because you're always trading up, and so they just like they're just like sweating because they're losing points and they're looking at the score and they're a little bit behind on the score, and the game comes down to like can they scoop up those last 2 points or not? If not, you've won, and you've been dictating the pace the whole time. And if they can scoop up the 2 points, then it's been a compelling battle. It was a slugfest.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. I've never had anyone like be upset with my Sylvaneth either. It's always a fun game. Like
I like that. I think part of that's the player too. Like you're a very amicable. Like I think just from knowing and talking to you, like I think your passion comes through on the table, and when you're playing an army you're passionate about, you can't help but love playing against it. Aaron, you had a thought.
Yeah, and that's something I need to work on more. Is like because I used to do a lot of the big heavy Kurnoths. Like I got lists that run 12 sides. You could still do it, but like
I mean you can still do it. I just think it's weak in the current meta.
I agree.
Very weak.
No, I'm with you there. But like I want to try to have when I do my list, things have a purpose. Like when I had Alarielle, like okay, well I'm gonna summon with Alarielle. Cool, I'm gonna summon 20 Dryads. They have a purpose, and that is to make sure that my opponent does not get to my Alarielle. Guess what happened? I had an opponent slam his Archaeon and Bellicor into my Dryads. They didn't get to Alarielle, and then there was no more Archaeon. He hit my screen. Like that's the whole point of them.
Yeah.
Like it just I am
like
A-okay with trading.
Yeah.
You have to be.
Like that's such the strength of Alarielle is having that flexibility.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
And so many times I see people with Alarielle and they get Alarielle and they just have one summon. They don't do like what Chaos players do where, okay, cool, here's my
summon
sideboard
board
of every
my sideboard
possible.
Yeah.
And I feel like you kind of have, if you're not doing that with Alarielle, like, because there's gonna be times when Kurnoth Hunters with bows, that's the play. Sniping that one hero right now is the play.
Yep.
Where other time I need a screen. Okay, Archaeon and
Case in point, I played this past Saturday with the Super Friends, and it was the one game that I actually dropped against. It was game 3 against a Living City player that had like Celestin Prime, a free guild general and Griffin, crossbowmen, and some other things.
Mm-hmm.
I was going for his. I got into combat. I got Alarielle into combat with his free guild general with his Griffin. Didn't kill it in one shot, but
Mhm.
he had that command. He had that mount trait where when it dies on
Yeah,
a 2-up,
fly high.
he'll go away. Goes away.
Yeah.
Well, where are you gonna hide from Alarielle? Where I kill you and he had 1 wound.
Yeah.
I got an arcane bolt off, killed you in the movement phase. You teleport across the board. Cool. Where are you going to hide? Because you ain't hiding from me. I
Yep.
have a 40-inch range. Where are you going? I also that was the game where I summoned bows and that actually ended up killing the general. That same
Yeah.
turn he teleported away. It is just the flexibility. I love Alarielle right
Yeah.
now. She's really good.
She's not for me, like personally. I don't stand Alarielle. I'm all about Papa Kurnoff. Papa Kurnoff and Dryja. They're my two. But I get it. I understand the Alarielle love. I just hate seeing people just, especially in battle reports, where they just take her and 16-inch move, turn 1, middle of the board, summon 6 scythes. And I'm like,
No.
oh,
No.
oh my
No.
baby. You're killing
I guess
my baby.
maybe I can go on my little soapbox about Alarielle. Like, no.
Yeah, final
you
soapbox.
don't-
Let's go.
You don't just throw her into combat. Case in point, I did that against Gargants, and then that was bad. But I only lost against Gargants by 3 points. I got all my battle tactics. Suck it, Gargants. So I will take that. That's what I outnumbered Gargants on an objective. I take her tribe, Gargants, with my super friends list. Suck it, takers. At 31 models versus your 30. Stop cheating.
If the Gargant player wants to smack talk you on Twitter, where can they get at you?
Oh, I don't have Twitter.
I'm just kidding.
He's a good friend. He's a good friend of mine. We had a really good game.
That's fantastic.
No, Alarielle. The key with Alarielle is you keep her in the back. I had this discussion I think on the AOS Coach Discord. When you do Throne of Vines, you don't always have to just not move. You could always just cast Throne of Vines, get other 2 spells off that you want off, and then move to wherever the hell you want to go.
Yep.
I will absolutely do a spell cast that could bait one of your probably limited amount of unbinds to possibly make my spell stronger. I'm like, yes, I'll do this. Cool. I'll do 2d6 plus 2 on my Metamorphosis where I'm going to do like 7 to 8 mortal wounds against you. Yes, please. I will absolutely do that. You move her around and you chuck her spear at you. Cool. Take flat 6. Flat 6. Flat 6.
Spell.
Spell. Yep. Spell.
Endless spell. Glade Worm.
Right. Cool. I'm healing a whole bunch. I'm going to do some damage to you and you can't get to me. And if you do, I'm going to be probably pretty tanky. And then I'm going to pick my fight with you. And you get it to be cool. I'm going to retreat, shoot my spear, and charge right back into you.
Yep.
Fun.
And never throw her into a double. Ever. Unless you absolutely have to.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. It was a proper. I didn't even queue up the final soapbox, and you got on it nicely. So.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. Sigil, any final talking points you'd like to go over here? No.
Alarielle is my biggest gripe, and Aaron did it beautifully. So yeah, that's
Great.
bingo.
Great.
Nailed it.
There's a gripe in the chat about Harvestburn Durthu. I am sorry, an anachronistic vampirist. Harvestburn Durthu is the absolute nuts. Get at me. It is so much fun. Yeah, shoot Durthu. Don't get into combat with him.
Oh yeah.
So
It's
cheeky,
great.
and I love it.
It's fantastic.
So
I love
you,
that
I ran
people
away.
coming out to defend Harvest Boon Durthu. Like shoot Durthu. What's a shooting phase? Death armies. We don't have. Is that the you mean the breath weapon phase? Like where I use my one breath weapon, it misses, and then I go on to play the more interesting phases.
Yeah, Harvestbird Durthu is you charge Durthu with a bunch of stuff and you have to surround him. Otherwise, you charge him with one thing, I 4-up stomp you, and then I just hit you back and I leave. Bye. So
What's
cheeky.
what's the next enhancement? You can also pin him though. You can.
Oh yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, cheeky fun thing. I did that with when Thermal Rider Cloak was around.
Oh
Mm.
god.
So you, or you do that, or now you do it with Ether Blossom. Give him fly, then you could just like move 6 inches over enemies because you can fly.
Fun. Shoot Durthu with my skeletons and my Chaos Warriors. Yeah, I don't know. Shooting phase, disgusting. What's the next enhancing? I don't have one currently on the schedule. My February schedule is coming together, as it were, and I've got to reschedule the last week's episode that fell through with the professional wrestler. So
Oh,
yeah,
I'm tuning in.
yeah. So Big Saul from Full Blooded Italians of ECW fame.
No, all right, hell yeah, I'm in.
Yeah. But we got to reschedule that. So I got to talk to Saul again. And the next Great Enhancing, I think I'm going to stick around in Order for a little bit because there's just a lot more Order armies than there are other armies. I'm going to try to get Night Haunt in here pretty soon, because I think the writing is on the wall for Night Haunt. That silhouette looked like a Night Haunt model again. So I don't know.
It definitely did.
Like, it didn't it? I mean, it could maybe be some Zinch thing, but the timing doesn't seem right for Zinch. Because Zinch has, like, flaming candelabras and shit, right? It's one of the only...
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
think we're only
the
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say the blue scribes. That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. There's like sensors and stuff in that army too. So but it looks very Night Haunty. That's a silhouette. Well, we
Yeah.
find out tomorrow, don't we? For the next day.
We find out in 2 hours.
In 2 hours.
Oh shit.
Jeepers Creepers.
It's been midnight central.
Fantastic. Yeah. So we'll know very shortly what it is. And I don't want to. The hope for the enhancing is to not really be chasing a new battle tome. Is to get out like after a battle tome comes out and to have stuff that I don't think battle tomes are coming for anytime soon. So that the main reason is so that the conversation stays relevant when people go back and watch their favorite armies episode. In a year from now when I've got them all done. Yeah, I don't know. I gotta think. Oh, Slaves to Darkness is next. Oh, Slaves to Darkness is the next one. With CJ Ubusta and Alebeard. That one's next. That one's.
That'll be good.
Yeah. Slaves to Darkness is next up. Actually, it is booked. And then I want to do some. I got to do some more Order. So yeah, that's the next one. Shoot Durthu. Yeah, shoot Durthu with skeletons. See, do you know how you shoot Durthu with skeletons? Zombies. You
You
6-inch
them.
pile in zombies. It's like a shooting attack. You see.
It is.
It
It has a range
It's a
that is
6
greater
inch-
than 3 inches.
It's a 6-inch range. It's like
It's auto run 6, pile in 6, surround Durthu,
Yep.
and you're good.
Profit. Yeah.
Yes. So I would say for vampires, yeah, if you're gonna go up against that, you want to be able to position to surround Durthu so he can't just 6-inch pile out of combat.
Yeah.
That's how you beat him.
And you don't need to fully wrap him. You don't need to fully wrap him. You just
Yeah.
need to get around partially around his base so that he
Yep.
can't wiggle back out.
Yeah.
So basically the answer is drown him with skeletons. But it's the answer to everything is you just drown it with skeletons. Just
Drown the world with love. In
Yeah.
this case, love is skeletons.
Bones.
Yeah. So anything you guys want to shout out real quick? I know you're gonna shout out Kenny's show for me because I constantly forget to shout it out, even though he's an incredible person. And
yes, I gotta give a shout out to the Combat Phase podcast. But Kenny Lowell and Sean Hook. Kenny's one of my good friends here in Madison. We're actually teammates for Holy Wars. Really excited for that. I also want to give a shout out to the Dias Cast podcast and YouTube channel. They're currently they do battle reports and they're doing kind of a winter Rubicon mini tournament, and I actually just filmed my game. I went over and filmed my game, my first round game for that last night. So that should go up on Sunday. It is my Sons of Bahamut with a special fun army list against a Maggotkin of Nurgle. So be looking for that. And then for those that are local to the Wisconsin-ish, South Central Wisconsin area, I am starting to run Age of Sigmar events at game stores here. So I have to reschedule one of my next one. I'm hoping for maybe late February. But once I get that out, I'll send out information.
Do I know you by reputation and not realize it? Did you run an event a while ago with gates on the table, and you could like gate through the?
No.
No. Okay. There's someone
No,
else.
that wasn't. No, that wasn't. That wasn't me. I ran my first event at the beginning of December. Haywo came out to it because
Okay.
he's local
Yeah,
to me.
yeah. So, Sajil, anything you want to shout out? I see you got your link in there for your.
No, I threw up the Diecast. That's.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Linked to.
Yeah, thank you. So anything you want to shout out and. Yourself, namely, because you do a bunch of great stuff.
Yeah, I stream on this website, not YouTube. If you're watching it on YouTube, I'm on Twitch at SA_JEEL. I do mini painting, game dev work, hobbyist game jams and that sort of thing. And also shout out That's a Crit, because he plays video games and he's a friend of mine, and he was in chat earlier asking about vampires. He likes vampires. Give him a like or a follow.
You said the important thing for me is liking vampires. So,
yeah.
I like vampires.
Everyone likes vampires.
All right. So no, Streamlabs fine to me. I think it's your
It's
upside
fine.
down internet, Hades. Sorry, go on.
It's like I don't have a Twitter or like a Twitch stream, but like I say, if you know, but I'm open. If anybody has questions about Sylvaneth, feel free to ping me in Mephisto's chat or PM me on Discord. I'm happy to help and have a conversation.
Oh right, Twitter and Instagram Sage_Sajil. Nah.
Yeah.
I'm bad at social media. I don't like social media. Follow me.
It's like it's weird because like I think social media has kind of ruined the world. But like I absolutely adore Twitter. Like you'll pry my Twitter feed for my cold dead hands.
I've considered starting a Twitter, and I've been told I need to. For just for Warhammer stuff. It's like purely Warhammer.
I mean, you could go to Instagram for like kind of Warhammer stuff. The problem is like the Warhammer community is because we're all like in a particular like age demographic. Like it's basically Twitter. And then like some Facebook groups, And so it's like if you want to like share pictures and look at people's minis and like you go to a tournament and you take selfies with them and like that there's like a whole culture of that on Twitter. But like then you also get the like it's an FAQ. I can tell it's an FAQ day because everyone's arguing about something and like I just keep scrolling like that. It's man, I'm like me at my most Slaneshi, I suppose, is like how much I kind of relish the shit talk on Twitter and people's bad takes. Like I'm like like it's delicious. I eat it up, but I can't help myself sometimes from engaging.
You can make Twitter whatever you want it to be. It just takes a bit of work.
Yeah. I've said before that like my my Twitter feed is like excellent. I can open it up at any given time and like scroll through and it's just like all bangers because it's so highly curated. But like Facebook is a dumpster fire, so I just don't go there anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
And also BWG Cannonball. He's a great person to follow on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Basement Wargamers. Did you get back to me about when your event is? I guess I have a shout out. I don't often shout out stuff on my own show. I think it's like one big extended shout out to like my guests and anything they want to honk. But Rantathon has its date. Rantathon 3, catchy subtitle incoming. Rantathon 3 has its date. It's going to be July 30th and 31st. The charity will be Take This. They are a gaming-focused mental health charity. They have some international. Their site is curated really well for giving resources to an international community as well as like sort of intersectional communities, which I think is very. I was hoping this year to do something a little bit more broadly because it always felt a little weird taking money from people in Europe and Australia for something called Mental Health America,
Mm.
for charitable
Take this is
causes.
great.
So Take This. I did some vetting. I've been in correspondence with them. Um, yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing that. I had like some boxes to check this year for things I wanted to do for the Rantathon, and I've pretty much checked most of them. If you were just now hearing this, if you're listening back to this on like iTunes or Podbean or whatever, like check my Twitter feed. I just recently shared one of the grand prizes for the charity Rantathon, which is a fully painted Necron army by Ulf Paints here in chat. So
Pictures look awesome. Holy shit.
yeah, like I mean what would be the equivalent of like 2,000 points. I know they play on a slightly different system than us, so their 2,000 point equivalent. Gorgeous looking models, like metal on metal, like glorious, sweet little like rainbow sequins and glow effects and stuff. Like really, really, really rad looking. And I know some of you are like, but Mephisto, you don't play 40k, and you're not really a 40k guy. Indeed, I am not. So I wonder if we're gonna have some other stuff that's like maybe more like Warhammer Age of Sigmar focused. Perhaps other
lies,
yeah,
fake lies.
yeah,
No.
perhaps other tabletop gaming related things. I don't know.
That would be crazy. That
Yeah,
would be insane.
yeah,
Next time on.
yeah, yeah. So I'll be working with Take This this year. I'm in correspondence with them. Probably actually going to have their one of their community directors who has a PhD in psychology and training in the charity aspects of this stuff come on and actually talk about some more actionable things, which is really what I wanted to do with the charity this time this year, is to give people some actionable stuff. If you've been listening or watching my Twitter feed these last few months, people know that I'm kind of entrenched in a battle right now with my mental health and getting some help. So you know, I'm not just a mental health advocate. I'm a sufferer. No.
Hey, we all here. We're all here for you, man.
Yeah, I know.
You know that.
Yeah. No, I know. I rant the Rantcast and my and the Age of Sigmar community has been like a true bright spot in some really tough times for me. So I've said before, I'll say again, the Warhammer community is the best community in gaming. Unquestionably, I've been around gaming my whole life, and nothing's quite like this community. It's you guys are fantastic. So I guess that's my shout out on my own show. Is shout outs to Chat Gang and the Age of Sigmar community. You are the show within the show. The reason I do this thing. Remember to drink your milk, pay your taxes, be excellent to yourselves and each other. We'll catch you next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night.